lively. Clobbering time. You know that. By the way, everyone. Yes, I played the Monday night one just because I can't get enough of it. That's the one Loki made me a Monday night opening there, and I want to thank the great Stone Loki for that wonderful opening. And I know I was only supposed to play it on Monday nights, but I can't help it. I like it.
It's got good pump you up music.
Yeah, I like it. Well, again, it's just got because we do a Monday night comic stream. It's got bump from the old Monday Night Football. So
I heard that,
and I miss. I'm that one of the days when I lived for Monday Night Football. But this is close enough. Nevertheless, foul on me, 15-yard penalty for doing it on a Saturday night.
That's okay. I think you are forgiven. Can you believe our bump in chat? It is so nice to see everyone.
Yay, everyone. Welcome. Chat, say hello to our lovely and wonderful first officer, the magnificent RAQUEL BRIGGS.
Hello, everyone. So good to see you all. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for being here. The great Lord Thoth. Hey, buddy. Avon lives, and LLL, long live the Legion, my fellow Legionnaire. Fan of the great Legion of Superheroes, my buddy, the great Steve Mitchum, old friend. Thank you for being here and seeing here. Whatever, if you're seeing, that's good. Mark D with the C. Mark D with the C. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Darren Feliciano is here.
And everyone is here for the festival. Do you have lodgings?
Festival by me.
Hail to Steve Mitchum. These are the Steves I know. These are the Steves I know. Sat Shri Akal Esh. So nice to see you, my friend.
Esh. And they call him Scuba Pete. He's the
Scuba
king of Pete. Yes, Scuba Pete is here. Let's see who else be's here. Jesus is my King 68. Well, and we know who you are. You're not fooling anyone, Jesus. Because now I can say, hey, Jesus. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. Oh, Jesus H. Christ. Not you. Sorry. Who else we have? We'll have more. Well, I think we covered everyone at the moment, but there could be some more.
Everyone is of the body.
Indeed. Yeah. Yes. Festival indeed. All right. Well, I was just making sure we got everyone, but yeah. All right. Well, everyone, I want to thank you for being here tonight. It is time to do some trekking.
It is.
It's what we live for. But first, I do want to thank the wonderful heiress of chaos, the Battle Angel, who was so gracious to have me on her show earlier today, 4+ hours of trashing the Man of Steel. She found the video of someone saying, "Is Man of Steel Man of Steel is a great movie," or something like that. Now it took us 4 hours to go. This video is less than 11 minutes long. 4 hours to tear it to pieces. This guy.
Speaking of Man of Steel, I have to interrupt. Chat, can we please get some numerous hails for Clobby's stamina, because if you want to talk Man of Steel, this man has been on air all day. You gotta throw up those hands and those hails for Clobby. Anyway, Clobby, please continue with your story.
Yeah, I was just saying this guy went it's a piece of filth. And I say Man of Steel all the time, but I just said sometimes I accidentally say Man of Steel. This movie's but this guy 11 minutes, okay, and he said this was hilarious, Raquel. He said nothing of substance. He invoked Shakespearean a couple of times, which made us stop and laugh and tell him what an idiot he is.
Oh no!
This movie sucks. But anyway, he basically said nothing. Basically, this is what he said, and it took us 4 hours to have fun with it. He said, "This movie's really good. I really, really like it. People who don't like it don't really understand it, and if you don't like it, you're a big poopy head." Now, what was funny about it is, I'm telling you, it boiled down to that. He made no salient points. He did not defend anything, which, by the way, it's fine. Anyone liking anything, it's fine. You like it, that's great.
Sure.
He didn't. His point was supposed to be to take what critics have said, the people who don't like it, and rebut it. Did none of that. He said he was doing it, but he never did it. He just said, if you don't like it, you don't understand it. And then, this was the kicker. The whole time he kept saying at least nice things like, well, this is my opinion. He sounded very affable, fairly likable. Hey, there was my partner in crime with it today, Project Storytime. Thank you, sir, Project. And then basically I swear to God, I'm not making this up, when he got to the very last bit of it, when he concluded his nothingness of his absolute emptiness of a so-called defense of the film, he put up, and he even put this on letters. He said, what did he say? Story time. What did he say it again? He called it, he said, basically, if you don't like this movie, you're nitpicking and you're wrong, and I win. Boom.
Aww.
I mean, he wrote that. Like, dude, you defended nothing.
As someone who teaches rhetoric for a living, that makes me very sad. Because you get built up. You're really hoping for a good argument. I think that people don't realize that others want to make concessions on salient points. But if they're never made and they're only promised, it's not good. You sort of feel like somebody didn't finish their business.
Yeah, I mean, look, hey, I know people who like it. If you like something, fine. Just you come out and just say, I like it, and that's fine. I don't really need to argue. But if you're going to come out and make a video that says it's a great movie, and people who don't like it don't understand it, then back it up. Mm-hmm. Or don't make the freaking video.
Yeah, you definitely have to do that.
Yeah, but anyway, and that, it was a lot of fun. Thank you, Eris, and thank you, Project Storytime. I really enjoyed hanging out with you fellas. Man of Steel is a great film. You boomers know nothing. Yeah.
Ash, I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X. I'm not a boomer. I'm not a boomer.
I am a boomer. I'm not proud of it.
Eastland, welcome. Chris is here.
Hey, the great Chris Presley. He was with us.
Hail, the gang's all here.
He was with us tonight. No, he was with us today. But that was some fun, wasn't it? No, you guys, I had a great time. I don't know why she picked me. That's a mystery. To talk about that movie. Anyway, but we're going to talk about something good tonight. Well, 4 episodes of something good.
4 episodes of gloriousness.
Absolutely. And so we may as well proceed. We're ready, everyone. Oh, well, no, actually, I'm not. Well, I can be ready. Let me get the picture up there first.
Let's throw up the block.
Yeah, where's the blocky block? I know I forgetted something. There we go.
Rod Thunderheart, welcome. It's so good to see you, sweetheart. I'm so happy you're here.
Rod Thunderheart was a man. He was a big man with an eye like an eagle and as tall as a mountain was he. All right. I'm sorry. That was someone else.
No, you're allowed.
My apologies.
No.
Hail, Rod Thunderheart. Okay, this is the book. If you want to do their usual introduction things, I will get us some pictures.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so you go ahead and do that, and I'll sort of explain. So we use Star Trek 365 by block because it's vetted material. So we know that the production notes and the things that are said inside have been vetted and professionally edited. We don't like to use wikis and things like that around here, especially ones in which people are adding information and it's not vetted information. So like when you're looking at Memory Alpha lately, Memory Alpha has been infiltrated by other sources, and because it's user generated content, it's not been verified. So we just go ahead and we use this 365 book, and we use it as a launch off point to discuss the summary and get through it really quickly, also to add some of those production notes, and we know that they're verified. And then around here, this amazing chat filled with experts and my illustrious host, Clobby, we infill it with all the information that we know in knowing and loving Star Trek for 4 or more decades. So that's how we roll around here. We're also doing it in production order. And the reason why we're doing it in production order is because sometimes when you're watching the series in the way in which it was broadcast, you get a different idea of how this show was created and how good this show is, because there are production errors, there are things that happened with the budget, there are locations, lots of different dynamic things going on in the background. So if you watch in the broadcast order, it can give you this impression that this show is sloppy, and so you tend to make fun of the little boo-boos here and there. If you watch it in production order, the way in which it was created, you get a better idea and you realize, hey, this isn't sloppiness. This is a shoestring budget, a bunch of people coming together to do the best they can with as little money as possible to make this wonderful IP. So if that's all, I think that's about it. What do you think, Clobby? Does that explain it?
I think absolutely beautifully done. As always, I think we're ready to rock and roll with the return of the Archons.
Yeah. So this is season 1, episode 21, prod code 22. And we're going to turn to the block text now, and we're on tile 115116. And the reason why I say tile is because this is a weird looking brick of a book. If you buy this book and you follow along with us, I want you to know that Clobby and I find this book to be very strange. It's shaped like a cement block or like a brick, and its spine is quite long, but it is very concise and it is filled with pictures. So when I call out the tile number, that's why I don't call it the page number. It's because it has those big tile numbers on the actual book itself. So without further ado, let's get into it. 100 years ago, a starship known as the Archon traveled to Beta 3 and was never heard from again. Kirk takes the Enterprise to Beta 3 to investigate the fate of the Archon crew and discovers a society, collectively known as the Body, that is stagnant and non-productive. The Body is under the strict mental control of Landru, a seemingly omniscient computer that has been in charge for thousands of years. It was Landru that destroyed the Archon and absorbed its crew into a pathologically tranquil populace on Beta 3. The same fate awaits Kirk's crew if the captain can't find a way to stop Landru. The people of Beta 3 believe Kirk and company to be the Archons, the name collectively given to the survivors of the Archon, a starship that Landru destroyed 100 years ago. The name Archon doesn't really fit in within Starfleet's traditional patterns of ship nomenclature. Most often, the starships mentioned in Star Trek are named after historic Earth naval ships, like the Enterprise. Is one of the top of the line starships designed for long range exploration. Among them, the Constitution, the Constellation, the Defiant, the Endeavor, the Hood, the Intrepid, the Lexington, the Potemkin, the Yorkton. Archon, however, is a Greek word, and it means ruler, containing the same root as monarchy and hierarchy. That doesn't really fit snugly within the fleet dedicated to peace and exploration. So what's with this anomaly? It was apparently given on whimsy of the author's part. The story, The Return of the Archons, was written by Gene Roddenberry, the very same Gene Roddenberry who, while in college, belonged to a debate team called the Archons. And as one of those nerdy people who was on the debate team and even went to the provincial championships, I just have to say This is a full-on nerdgasm. Anyways, on to Tile 117. Speaking of debate teams, clearly there was one at Starfleet Academy. James T. Kirk positively excels at using common debate tactics against his opponent, revealing errors and omissions in his opponent's facts or logic in order to win arguments. This skill is particularly powerful when dealing with opponents of an inanimate kind, as on Beta 3. When Kirk believes Landru to be a powerful humanoid of some sort, he's briefly stymied. But once Spock points out that Beta 3 society has the tranquility of a machine, all the working parts working in unison, Kirk knows what he's up against. If he can find the computer that's running things, it's a goner, because his glib tongue can easily tie knots in a computer's logic, ultimately confusing it into self-destruction. The Return of the Archons is the first of 4 episodes in which Kirk literally talks a computer to death. He pulls it off again and again. And I'm just going to stop here and just remind you, for our advanced listeners, our advanced geeks, and our advanced nerds, if you are playing advanced versions of a Star Trek trivia games, please take note. So the talking a computer to death would be the Changeling, iMud, the Ultimate Computer, and the Return of the Archons. It's almost the red hour. A man on the street informs Kirk's landing party. Then the clock strikes 6 and all hell breaks loose. The people of Beta 3 suddenly cast free their imposed apathy, erupt into a festival of violent, lustful chaos. 12 hours later, the party's over, and people go back to whatever boring things they were doing before this animalistic shindig. No explanation is given for why the red hour takes place, and although it gives the episode an exciting first act, in truth it has little to do with the rest of the episode. Many viewers, however, took the concept of the red hour to heart, perhaps none more so than the comic actor and self-proclaimed Star Trek fan, Ben Stiller. In 2001, Ben Stiller named his motion picture production company Red Hour Productions, and under the logo, almost a dozen movies have been released to date, such as Zoolander, Starsky and Hutch, Tropical Thunder. As co-author of Zoolander, Stiller named the film's white-haired evil fashion czar, Jay Maguda, after the white-haired ape in the Star Trek episode A Private Little War, and the female lead character, Matilda James Jeffries, after Star Trek production designer Matt Jeffries.
Wow.
And that is all the block text has to say about the Return of the Archons. Now, as is our custom around here, I have a whole bunch of notes, but I'm going to turn it over to Clobby and the chat. Please tell me what you thought of Block's coverage and anything you might want to infill about the Return of the Archons.
Nice info. I like some of that I was not aware of. The thing about Roddenberry's debate team name, I did not know that. That's really nice to hear. And so yeah, stuff. And it is, it is definitely I never even thought of it, but it is a bit of an unusual name for a starship, the Federation, a Starfleet vessel. Come to think of it. And it was like 100-something years or so.
Yeah.
So I had to be somewhere around Archer's time, I guess. Maybe it was in an XO. No, maybe it's an XO5 or something. I don't know. We don't know that, but I'm just kidding.
Well, what's interesting is that this is prod code 22, and this is why it's so important to watch in production order. But this is right around the time when there were rumors that the network and the producers were pushing for them to be sort of ambivalent about that time space. They got a hankering for not wanting to nail it down, and I think it's because they were afraid that these little holes would happen, these little accidents or errors would happen. So they didn't want them to accumulate. So they asked them to be less precise starting from this point forward. And I just noticed that Eric K walked in the door while I was reading. Eric, it's so nice to see you, sweetheart. So good to see you here. It's great to have you. You are an integral part of this community. So nice to see you. Thank you for the shout out, sir.
Eric K, absolutely. Good to see you, my friend. Always good to see you there, buddy. RN, it was my pleasure. Actually, everyone kind of chipped in a little bit last night, referring to last night on Doomcock's panel when his power went out. Well, hey, it was my pleasure. He had about 8 of us there to cover him on that one, which I guess was fortuitous. If he'd gone out while he was just, flying solo like he usually does, I mean, we wouldn't have known what happened. So, yeah, that's and
Lucky thing he had so many of you on the panel.
yeah, we had you covered, DC, and we love you, man. We love you. Hail Doomcock.
You're darn right, Hail Doomcock.
But yes, no, I mean, it's definitely a very good, solid episode. I like it a lot. Is it in my top 20 or 25? I don't know anything about that, but it's an excellent story. It is very well done. I like it. It's a solid episode. It's just the best I could say about it.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Is it one of your favorites or?
Well, it is because, of course, it was written by Gene Roddenberry, and there's some pushback here, of course, given his developing humanism. So we see him moving more and more away from being from the position of an agnostic into being a full-blown atheist. So we're seeing some of that, and we're seeing some pushback from the Vietnam War going on in this episode. So I think it's subtle, and I think it's great work, and I absolutely love Gene Roddenberry. So in my notes, I just have here, this is the first mention of the Prime Directive. But here we see the Prime Directive explicitly said as the non-interference of a living, growing culture. So it should be living and growing. We also have our first landing party that has decided to get into native dress. I did have in my notes, Ben Stiller named his production company after the Red Hour in this episode. I did have it down about Gene's debate team. And I did have it down about the word Archon being Greek. Of course, it means leader, highest, or chief. And it's important that to say that it was very intellectual for them to add monarchy, hierarchy, anarchy, and put them all into this Landru society. I have in my notes, Spock punches a guard instead of using a nerve pinch. Now, that's not usually in what you're going to see on the internet. That's not usually a trivia kind of thing. That's actually just usually from watching. So if anybody ever asks you, has he ever used anything other than a pinch? Definitely the Return of the Archons has him punching the guard. I have Landru inspired the creation of the Borg. So the people who invented the Borg, which we'll get into later on, they were inspired by the Landru. Spock sleeps with his eyes open in this episode. This is 22 episodes in, and it's the first time Scotty is put in charge of the bridge instead of Uhura, because prior to that, Uhura is put in charge. And what else did I have? Oh, everyone in the cast was quitting smoking at this point, and they were trying. So gum was an issue on set during filming. Apparently, William Shatner was making it worse. He kept bringing bubble gum, whereas I believe Leonard Nimoy, as I know as a Leonard Nimoy fan, he would not have been chewing gum. He would have been eating Tootsie Rolls because he absolutely loves Tootsie Rolls. And I thought that it would be important to mention, not through trivia, but just because of what's going on in our world today, individuality is absorbed into the good. Landru says this. And then, of course, we have Spock saying later, piece of the factory, the machine. So I thought that, I don't like to be political on this show, but I thought that some of you would like that I pulled those quotes out, because that individuality absorbed into the good sounds quite sinister, doesn't it? And we have Landru saying that. So, and that's all I have on my notes. That's it.
Before we continue, I just want to say a big shout out to our good friend Mark C., who has been going through a lot of medical problems and things like that, brother. And he got a good shout out from Gary and the guys the other night, and from Doomcock last night. That from both of them last night. And hey, buddy, I'm glad you're here, man. If you're hearing me now, great to see you. And I'm all pulling for you, bro.
Yeah,
So,
we are. And
absolutely, man.
everyone around here cares about you so much. We have a little, a kind of like a little well wish when you're not here, and we throw your initials up into the chat. So I just want you to know that every single person who is here and is a part of this community has been supporting you in the background, even when you're not here. Everybody really cares about you, and we're really pulling for you.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. We're here for you, man. Yeah, so thanks. I'm glad you're there. Glad you're listening.
Yeah.
But uh he said this is he actually added something to the episode, and it was also around the time Nimoy had a drinking problem but never
Yeah.
let it reflect in his professionalism. There you go.
Yeah, he had developed a drinking problem at this point. He always had a glass or two of wine after each episode, and just somehow it just carried over. So he found himself, as he said himself, on many occasions, he found himself going home, and he would wake up when he wasn't working. He would, because of course shooting is quite demanding, but he would wake up at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he would just start drinking, and he would usually pass out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And he said this on many occasions, this 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. thing, and he passed out from drinking, and it just got away on him, and he struggled with it for a while, and he's a great man, and I'm so happy that he managed to pull through that dark time in his life.
Absolutely. And
did I mention that when we met, we met a couple of times actually,
Oh,
that
yeah,
he put his arm around my waist, and we just stood there talking for a little while. It's great.
he's red-blooded American boy after all.
Oh, I was swooning hardcore. I met some fairly famous people in my life, especially working in radio and growing up in a band, but and just being around all that. But when Leonard Nimoy puts his arm around you, boy, woo,
there you go.
It worked for me, Clobby. It worked for me.
He would have just given me a neck pinch, probably. So I doubt he would have done the same. I'm just going to go way out there.
I was just starstruck. I just swooned hardcore. He was just his magnificent. He's so tall and handsome, and he's great to be around. Love him.
Indeed. No, well, we all love him, and this is just a very clever story, and it is speaks so much to one of those episodes where it's gonna sound weird. When I first started being able to actually watch Star Trek in syndication, after it started showing on a local channel, we used to get it at 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday mornings. When you just woke up, or when you woke up just to watch something, in your kid or like a teenager sounds kind of different. And this episode was as actually Mark D with the C pointed out earlier, is very creepy, has a creepy element to it.
It does.
And which I thought was interesting about it.
And funny that it would be on the Sabbath, when most people who grew up in the 70s, like I did, would be getting up in the morning to go to church. And there's Landrew asking if you're of the body.
Not of the body. Landrew. Yeah, it is. Again, it's got all the classic Star Trek tenets in it. It talks about individualism. It talks about, basically technology taking over.
Yep.
This is 19. You have to say the year out loud. 1967.
Yeah.
I always say 66 is a habit because it's sort of, but yes, 67.
No, that's okay.
67, basically talking about AI.
Yeah, exactly. And just this just shows Gene Roddenberry's genius. The man he's a genius. And it's just that go back and just listen to that dialogue where Landrew says, your individuality will be absorbed into the good. How could individuality ever be absorbed into the good? And how could you have one all all-encompassing, omnipotent good. As an agnostic, it's pretty frightening to me, but it also says a lot, and quite a few scholars have gone to bat over this episode because of its implications in real life about what it's like to fully take away individuality and have a society sort of repressed by collectivism. So Clobby, you're always saying you never went to university, but you're always raising such great points, and that is definitely a very good point you've raised there, sir.
Well, thank you. It is very much. It's so. I hate. I guess a broken record. It is so. This is poignant for today. I mean, man, this is so timely. Yes, 1967, but it may as well be 2021 because we're in such. And again, we don't get political like you talked about, but so much of this is going on right now. We're fighting groupthink in so many ways right now.
Yeah,
we're fighting Landru right now, folks. It doesn't look like him. It's not in the same exact manifestation, but it is. It's going on right now in real life. And Star Trek. What's the word? You're the wordsmith here. Prescient. It was.
Yeah.
It was, and this one, like most episodes, definitely speaks to something. I was making a bold prediction that is, wow, we're looking right at it,
and it's also a warning, right? It's a warning message. It's more than just a prophecy that or a prediction or a commentary on things that have happened in the past, the present, or the future. This is getting into the very heart of how we think and asking us to consider how we think. And definitely, we see that danger in that. In finding in striking a balance between individuality and collectivism, because when you have an individualist society, many good things come out of it. We see this in the United States, and there are some good things about a collectivist society, but it can certainly get out from underneath you and quickly swallow you, and that's what's obviously happened here with Landru. There's nothing to say that what Landru is doing is good. And yet they all are convinced that it's good. And so one must become a part of the body. And so individuality is absorbed into this good when actually it's just thinking is absorbed into this one omnipotent power. And it's quite terrifying.
Well, so well said as always. Absolutely. And again, it is, there's rarely a Star Trek episode that goes by from any of them, but especially the original series, that doesn't give you something really to chew on, to really think about. And this one, at the time, especially if you're a kid watching this 60s or 70s or into the 80s, obviously now as well, but I mean, even back then, it really made you think about that. And you're so right. It's, the Borg is based on a lot of different things, but there's a lot of Borg in this one.
Well, no, it's an open thing in the production that the Borg were created off of the Landru. So I've read that in probably 10 or 15 different places. So it's not an inference. It was definitely the Borg were inspired by this Landru episode. So it was once again taking from the well, the never-ending, wonderful golden well that is Gene Roddenberry. So definitely you will see the Borg in Landru and Landru in the Borg, and it's because what you're seeing is the great bird and his marvelous writing. But I would encourage anyone who is at home right now and listening to this podcast, if you're really struggling with, you're grappling with what's going on in our media today, and you've been thinking about things, and you'd like to sort of mull those ideas over and sort of have something to answer you back or give you something to think about, I would really encourage you to open up this episode and rewatch it and get to that part where they talk about individuality being absorbed into the good, and Spock talking about the peace of the factory, the peace of the peace found in the machine. And of course, that's not a hapless homophone. He does not mean the peace as in P-I-E-C-E. He means the P-E-A-C-E. So finding becoming a part of a machine and just a small piece of that machine, instead of claiming your individuality and your own thought. So I thought that that would inspire many people who are struggling with these ideas today.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, by the way, fun fact: did you know Landrew once banned me from Twitter? I don't know. You're
And
not
you're
of the body.
Yes, so you're precisely getting into what I'm getting into without of course getting into politics. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is definitely an episode you want to go and look at, if you're contemplating those things, if you've been in conversations on social media about those things, if you're a university student and you have to write about those things, or if you're just a thinking person and you want to take a few minutes to consider what's going on in our world today. This would be a really great episode in which you could sort of wrestle those ideas back and forth, and certainly in a non-political way. Well, I shouldn't say
Absolutely.
political. That's silly of me. I didn't mean that. I meant
No,
partisan, a
sure.
non-partisan way.
Absolutely. We could all use more of that. Our great friend, Canadian Spider-Man, who does what a
Yay!
Canadian Spider-Man can. Hello, my friend.
Yeah.
Joy to you. Peace and contentment.
And I just wanted to say that that Eric made a big compliment here, and up in the chat somewhere, it just goes flying past so quickly when we talk about things. But he was saying that whether I'm red-blooded or whether I'm green-blooded or blue-blooded, Andorian
Or blood bearings, folks.
or Vulcanian, yeah, he said that he'd put his arm around me. I love you, Eric. Thank you. That means a lot.
I love you too, Eric. Just not that way, you understand? In a macho way, brother.
Yeah.
So.
In a
Yeah, you're the
super
man,
manly macho way.
Yeah.
Plus, he's clogging like a bear, so.
In a macho way, man. Oh, but yes. So, Returning the Archons is a solid, excellent episode filled with extraordinary concepts and ideas, and some. Also, I always like to do this when I remember it when we talk about an episode. Always, every episode would not be the same if it didn't have some wonderful character moments, and some of the this was a kind of a Kirk and Spock one here. McCoy gets for lack of a better term, absorbed relatively early. So it's up to Spock and Kirk and Spock, and I just love that where Kirk, it's a natural to fit in and go, joy to you, peace and contentment. Spock is not an actor. Well, Nimoy's an actor, but Spock's like, and he has to fake it well, and it's just kind of fun to watch that. He's getting so many wonderful scenes between the two of them, and then basically
McCoy is ridiculous once he goes over to the other side, though. Like he's a zealot. Do you know what I mean? He's a Landrew zealot. Yeah, he's just hysterical. And we have Eastland saying, "Am I misremembering this? The weapons were tunes."
Yes, and it was
with
hollow
no.
tubes.
Yeah, tubes. I see what you meant. Yes, they were. They looked like bamboo. They were like a staff, like "You shall not pass." Only they were completely hollow. Yeah.
And then yet the guy was one of the Lander's minions was able to murder a man. The gentleman who was always I forget his name, but he was in the cage. Also, that actor. And yes, he's able to murder a gentleman with it. And then again, Spock is a hollow tube captain.
Yeah. So Eastland says, was that a budget thing or was it something profound? It was something profound. It is widely known once you start reading about this episode that a lot of things were going on where people were discussing what was happening in Vietnam, and just different ways of people being indoctrinated and different types of control. And absolutely, that was something profound. It was not something budgetary. And that's an excellent question. But we see this again, too, when the cloak, which is supposed to invoke fear or power, at the end of the episode, I believe it's Kirk, who turns and says, looks like you two better find a new kind of job.
Yeah.
So their cloaks, their robe, the raiment, this religious and power symbol had no meaning. So wonderful comments, Eastland. And yes, you are absolutely correct. Profound this time, not budgetary. And on this show, it's really a flip of a coin.
And but it is interesting that it wasn't just like a gun or something. That it was it was this hollow tube that had to have its energy projected through from Landru projecting it through there.
Because we're the conduit, right?
Yeah.
We're the conduit. When we're wrestling with the difference between individuality and collectivism, when we give in to the machine and we become just a part of the machine instead of being an individual, that's when we become a conduit of this omnipotent power. We're no longer in control ourselves. So it's a salient point. Because a hollow tube is a conduit, and that power is coming from us, and it's not the power that the machine holds over us. It's the power we give to the machine. We're the ones channeling the power through that pipe. So excellent comments as usual from Eastland.
And it mystified Spock. He's going, this is technology, something, because it was a hollow tube. Yet obviously the power was broadcast from another source. So imagine
us. It's us. And when you surrender yourself so fully to something, and definitely something religious like that, or a type of political zealotry, or whatever have you, you become the conduit, and the power is coming from you, and you're giving it away. So you're willingly becoming a part of a machine instead of remaining an individual. So excellent. Love your comments, Eastland.
Greetings, Apollo Minion and Alpha Omega. Thank you for popping in. It is fantastic to see you both. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, my dear friends, I'm going to ask everyone now in the chat to please, if you would be so kind, to give us your. I'm going to get Raquel. So, in the meantime, give us your rating for the Return of the Archons, my friend.
Yeah, or any feedback or anything that we might have missed.
Well,
Remember, this is about you guys. It's not about Clobby and I. Clobby and I could stay up all night talking to each other about Star Trek. This is totally about you guys.
God, yeah.
So,
please, anything. If you have anything to add, they're not shy. They know.
Yeah, they'll just add it. So for me, Clobby, I'm totally going with a solid A on this. I might even say A+, because I just absolutely love Gene Roddenberry. I think he's a genius. I also think that it takes a very creative and wonderful mind to be able to postulate, pose these ideas to people in the public, offend no one, but get everybody to have a chew on it. And so he's not being didactic. He's not moralizing. He's not telling us what we should believe. He's merely presenting the ideas and then allowing us to evaluate them and sort of figure out where we stand. So because of that, level of craft, and of course because I'm a Roddenberry freak, it's A for me. I might even give it an A+.
Katie Carr!
Hey!
Katie, my dear, you are never late. You're here, and we're rating Return of the Archons. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but please feel free to give a rating.
Yes.
And we're lovely to see you. Thank you so much. Okay, so Raquel, you said A, right?
I'm saying A, and if we were in the context where we could talk about politics, where we could fully flesh this episode out, I would probably give it an A+, especially if we were in a room full of scholars, because there's a lot of meat to sink your teeth into. These are not the chicken wings that you get at Hooters. This is a roast beef dinner. So if we had that, I think we could flesh it out a little bit more. But just for this non-partisan, non-political chat, it's getting an A.
Is it bad that I want to go to Hooters now?
No, not at all.
Well, let's see here. I give it a solid B because I really do love the concepts in it and the fun. It is definitely a thoroughly entertaining episode. So it's a solid B for me. Let's see. We have Jesus Christ says, I mean, Jesus is my king. 68. A B, or a 7.3 grade. Our good buddy Lord Thoth is a 7.0. Our friend Scuba Pete is a B minus.
And if you want to follow up any of these with comments as to why, like if you would like to qualify your response, I want you to know that Clobby and I don't mind. We'll definitely throw that up. We'll hash it out.
They look, they got their shoes off, their kickback. They can do whatever they want here. They know that. Carte blanche, my friends. Our great friend Mark C, 8.2 out of 10.
Scuba Pete, Landrew hates wings, bad for the body.
I missed that one.
Oh my God, Scuba Pete, I love you.
Happy Valentine's Day. Do we have any more ratings? Let's see, I'm trying to find them.
Yeah. I'm crying here. He actually made me cry. Scuba Pete made me cry laugh.
A B for Eric K. Okay, no ratings for Apollo Meets Minion. An incomplete for you, listen, young lady. You must now go to detention and be forced to watch this episode immediately, or your punishment will be you have to watch a whole season of STD. Just kidding.
Ew.
Nah, that was uncalled for. That's a little bit much. That's I think probably a little extreme. Just kidding. Let's see here. I think we got everyone who was interested in rating it or seen it has done so. Oh, well, Mark, he says, hey, Hooter wings are awesome.
Love you, Mark.
Oh, they are. They're I haven't in a while, but they are pretty good. I go to Twin Peaks. I'm sorry. Twin Peaks is better. I mean, I've heard it's better. Is what I meant is that I've heard that it's better. That's what Thunderheart says. Does anyone remember Rocket Robin
Hood? Yes.
Yeah, there was an episode about AI that decided it didn't need its creator anymore. I still want to dig that thing up and watch that.
Rocket Robin Hood is so excellent. That is a Canadian cartoon from the 70s and I think early 80s, and it used all the same backgrounds as the American Spider-Man show. So like like when you see in the background, you see the skyscapes and you see the cityscapes and you see like the jazz clubs and things like that. It's all just been put on the back of the Rocket Robin Hood. So it's just, if you get a chance to see Rocket Robin Hood, it's a Canadian special.
Yes, indeed. By the same outfit, by the Ralph Bakshi's outfit. I forget the Gantry, whatever. I can't remember. Gantry Lawrence. I forget what they were called, but they did the 60 Spider-Man cartoon. Let's see here. This episode had great. But Eric K gives it a B. Katie. Costumes in this episode were great. Yeah, they did do a good job with it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that style. I love seeing men in a waistcoat. That's probably why I love snooker so much. It's just, I just love men in a waistcoat. They look really good. I like a man dressed up. Every girl's crazy about a sharp dressed man.
Our buddy Lord Thoth. Honestly, I never enjoyed this episode, and it is just meh when I see it and pop it on Space. I guess you mean the Space Channel?
Yes, I think he means Space. Yeah. That must mean that Lord Thoth is Canadian. I don't have Space anymore. I left it because it suddenly wasn't Space anymore. So
yes. Oh yeah, but I've heard of it before. It's like sort of like their sci-fi channel. Hail, Stephen Murphy. Welcome. 8. Oh, so Mark D with a C is an A minus.
Ah.
And let's see here. I think we got everybody. Yeah, I think we got. Let's see. Okay. Well, yeah, it is. That is actually true. It's a good point. Jesus, if I may call you Jesus or Jesus.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Jesus. Would have given it a 7 had you not mentioned the Red Hour, 7, which is similarly. Yeah, it is similar to The Purge. I've not seen those films, but I know about them. And yes, it is.
What's the year on The Purge?
It was just a few years back, and it's basically, when I first heard about him, it made me think of this episode.
Yeah, but which came first, The Purge or the Roddenberry? I'm pretty sure.
Oh no, it was a few years ago. Yeah, this is these films a few years ago. Well, they made a few, but the first one is basically, I forgot if it's just a city or a town or something where all law is suspended for one night or something like that. If I remember, I didn't watch them, but there's some people say they're really good, but little not to my cup of tea, but there.
TMF just walked through the door. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I
Oh,
love
TMF.
you. Nice to see you, babe.
Eric, try not to ruin my night, dude. That'll make me want to hurl, dude. Come on, man. That better not happen. Let's see here.
Oh my God. What? Go back.
Where,
What
who,
is
how, when?
this? Are you serious?
Where? You got to tell me where I'm going.
Archer's going to be on the disease?
It better not happen, but if it does, it won't be the real one anyway. They called somebody Spock on there, didn't make him Spock, right?
No, there's only one Spock. Spock isn't a costume.
Pike for that matter. Yeah. So yeah, they can call anybody Archer. They can go screw.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Katie is a B+.
Of course. Great.
Gotcha.
Good. That's a good one.
Katie. Yes.
Yeah,
indeed.
she supports the episode. Support Gene Roddenberry.
I'm just trying to catch up here.
Law suspended any crime legalized in the Purge movies. Yeah,
Okay.
and it was 12 hours here too.
12
So
hours.
I guess they borrowed from Gene Roddenberry in this show called The Purge. I haven't seen it. I will check it out. I shouldn't.
A couple of movies, they're hot, but really very, very violent. But some said they're good. I never watched them, but I don't know if they're 2 or 3 or whatever there are. But it was a few years back. I do know that. I know of them. Just hey, Toxic Man for love this one. Sorry, I'm late. How dare you, son? That look for Kirk is what I was as a groomsman for my friend's wedding.
I bet you were really handsome.
Like
yeah.
They just like the herbs.
Yeah. Yeah, and after you had a beer too, you could call yourself Wile E. Burp.
May have wore that Inspector of the Gun, except he wore his uniform.
Yes. Inspector of the Gun. That's a great episode. Can't wait till we get there.
Oh my goodness, that's gonna be some fun in that 3rd season for us.
Yep.
Let's see if I'm just trying to make sure we're all caught up before we move on to the next episode. So yes, everyone, the return of the Archons, mostly felt. Let's see, Toxic Man flew. Oh no, I'm sorry. I don't know if he gave it rating yet. Okay. Oh, really? Well, Jesus, we'll find out about that.
What? We'll find out
something about my favorite TOS episode is next. Well,
we'll so you know the prod order, Jesus or Jesus, whichever your name is. That is so cool. So happy.
Let's see here. Canada may have had Rocket, Robin Hood. We had Space Angel, and we had Space Ghost too, and we had Space Ghost.
That sounds like Captain Caveman.
Oh, that's good. Captain Caveman.
And do you remember when his son was on there? And then very quietly afterwards, it would go, and son.
Wow. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
We got
growing up in the 70s, guys, you just grow up in the 70s. You get up on Saturday morning, you watch all of the new cartoons, you eat sugary cereal, you drink from the garden hose, you drive a bike without a helmet, you play with caps, you have a cap gun, you do all sorts of things, and you don't die.
No. That would be the only bad part. You don't die. And you fall off of stuff. Let's see here. Okay, now are we ready for our next contestant?
Yes. A Taste of Armageddon, Season 1, Episode 23, Prod Code 23.
Righty. We are ready to roll.
And in the crazy looking book, we're on tile 119, 120. Against the stated wishes of the MNR 7's governing faction, Federation Ambassador Robert Fox orders Kirk to establish diplomatic contact with the planet. Upon arrival, Kirk learns that MNR 7 has been at war with its neighboring world, Vendikar, for more than 500 years, even though there's no sign of any damage that could be attributed to such prolonged conflict. The surprising reason, MNR 7 and Vendikar are engaged in a virtual war. Computers on each world project the weapon strikes and resulting casualties. Those unlucky citizens who are declared quote-unquote dead must report to vaporization booths for actual destruction. And the war's latest victims are the crew of the Enterprise. Star Trek was always a message show, and more often than not, in an era when the Vietnam War was on the mind of every American, the message was that war is bad. It could be said that over the course of 79 episodes, perhaps never as eloquently as Kirk puts in A Taste of Armageddon. Death, destruction, disease, horror. That's what war is all about. That's what makes it a thing to be avoided. But you've made it a neat and painless thing. So neat and painless, you have no reason to stop. And you've had it for 500 years. This episode is a perfect counterpoint to the one that preceded it. And see, this is why I make sure that we do this in prod code, not in broadcast code.
Yes.
Do you see how there are relationships going on here, folks? Anyhow, I'm going to keep on going. Sorry for stopping. The return of the Archons. There is a computer that keeps pace of the society. It oversees it by restricting the emotions of the planet's inhabitants. Here, the governing council of MNR7 has nearly eliminated the populace's emotional response to death by allowing a computer to run its 500-year war with its neighboring world. With a neighboring world, sorry. The FSNP, or the famous Spock nerve pinch, as it was referred to in scripts for Star Trek, originated very early in the show's season. In The Enemy Within, Spock was to the KO evil Kirk with a karate chop, but actor Leonard Nimoy felt that it was out of character for Spock. He suggested to the director that the Vulcan, who knew something of human anatomy, would realize that if he just applied pressure to the nerve complex at the base of the neck, he could render someone unconscious instantly and non-violently. As with the Vulcan mind meld technique, Nimoy's FSNP would get better, and the more his character practiced it. Although Spock often applied the pinch from behind his victim, as in The Enemy Within and Tomorrow is Yesterday, the writers began giving him lines that allowed him to walk right up to the intended and apply the FSNP as he does here, telling the gullible guard that there is a multi-legged creature crawling on his shoulder, and then reaching forward as if to helpfully brush the creature away. While many Star Trek tableaus were re-envisioned from years ago for the remastered release of Star Trek in high definition, some were so iconic that the producers merely color corrected them and cleaned them up. Albert Whitlock's original matte painting of MNR7's futuristic cityscape, as seen here, received little alteration. The new CGI version followed the lines of the old painting very closely, but added a few moving elements, such as a hover train and several small tiny humans walking in the deep background to make it look less static. Members of the crew that worked on the remastered series played the humans. And of course, that is that gorgeous, gorgeous shot of the cityscape from this episode. It's just fantastic. Now on tile 123 of the block text. When CBS announced that they had remastered the original Star Trek series in high def, they announced plans to redo the visual effects, recalls Michael Okuda, one of the remastering project's 3 visual effects producers, along with Dave Rossi and Denise Okuda. Of course, we knew fans would be skeptical. We shared their concerns, and we were determined to respect the artistry and the storytelling of those who made that classic show back in the 1960s. Behold, beside me is a photo of the CBS digital crew that was taken in November 2006. The occasion was Green Screen Day, when the crew would shoot images of the humanoid life forms, in other words, themselves, that would appear typically in unrecognizably tiny form within a number of the complicated mats. Standing in the front row far right is the project's visual effects supervisor, Niall Ray. Also in the back row, mat artist Max Gable is seen in a brown t-shirt, as is producer Dave Rossi in a gold Starfleet tunic. Producers Michael and Denise Okuda, also in Starfleet garb, kneel side by side in the center in the front row. Sitting cross-legged in the very front with a cheerful figure in black is Dave LaFontaine. And that is all the block text has to say about A Taste of Armageddon. I would just like everyone to know that Dave Rossi and I are friends on Twitter, and he is a wonderful human being. If you get a chance and you're in the Twitterverse, please go ahead and give Dave Rossi a follow. He's quite a brilliant person and a wonderful person to follow. He has just a wonderful personality, and I'm honored that he follows me. So yeah, and now I have a whole bunch of notes, but like per usual, I'm going to throw it over to Clobby. Clobby, what do you have to say about this episode? And anybody in the chat, what are your feelings about Block's coverage on this, or anything you may have learned from this coverage?
As always, fascinating stuff. I love hearing all the things like that we got going on with that. And it looks like I think the chat agrees with that. This episode to me is, if it's not a top 10er, it's right there at the cusp of it. I love this episode. Love everything about it. I mean, you've got it from character moments to a wonderful concept. This is one of, if we were just to do like a concept show, a show about the great ideas, the great inspired ideas in Star Trek stories, this would have to rate somewhere at the very top. Of the whole idea of the war, the virtual war being fought by Vindicar and Amini R7 is just, it's just terrific.
Do you see now why it's so important to see these things in production order? Because now you're seeing this relationship between the Archons and this constant Armageddon. So we're seeing so much commentary, and there's so much going on behind the scenes that they're trying to provoke this dialogue in society. It's really beautiful, isn't it?
It absolutely is. By the way, hail to my fantastic and great old friend, Ace Castarn. Good to see you, brother.
Hey, Ace. So nice to see you.
I'm always just feel so good when I see you pop in, my friend.
Yeah, and Raymond's right. This is how dangerous war can be sanitized, and it's and the way that it's delivered. This isn't just about the sanitized images. This is once again getting into that idea where you could just press a button and people could die. Well, of course, you know that we're starting to worry about things like the bomb. Where people are afraid of nuclear war. People have, everything that happened in Hiroshima, Nagasaki. You see all of this happening in our society, and so here we're not only seeing how you can sanitize war and make it sort of seem like a game, but the power in not being able to see the person who you kill, and not having to suffer the consequences. So we can go over and we can bomb the crap out of some country and we feel nothing, and that's really scary. So you have all of this architecture of the mind going on in the background, all this scaffolding for all these complex ideas that could be taken in any scholarly direction. So it's very intriguing, it's very juicy, it's very intelligent, it's just wonderful.
Absolutely. It was a wonderful commentary on when you make something really bad very easy and clean and antiseptic, people become just numb to it. And that's what they do here. They just walk into that disintegration booth. That was one of the most, I think, poignant things you've ever seen in Star Trek. When so you're just going to walk into that thing, and what was the lady's name again? I love the lady that. Why am I forgetting her name? Damn it!
Who? Babcock?
Yes, Barbara Babcock.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, lovely lady. And her character again, it's funny. They don't know her. They just barely met her, right?
Yeah.
And then when they're finding out what's going on, when we finally the really excellent scene where we finally learn what's going on, how horrified Kirk is by this whole thing, and just a few minutes later, when she's found out she's been killed and she has to go report to one of the discrimination booths, I just love Kirk's reaction. Like, you think you're gonna? What do you think you're doing? What do you mean? You think you're gonna go kill yourself? I've known you for an hour. You're not doing it. No, I mean,
Yeah, and it's so funny too because I have a bunch of stuff about Barbara Babcock in my notes, but she always plays. Well, she doesn't always play, but she plays this type of character really well. This sort of haughty, matter of fact. It's going to happen, and this sort of she has a chill on her shoulder. She's a bit of an ice queen, and it's pretty scary. And she does the character to great effect in this episode. The Mia 3 is the way she
right.
reacts to death
Oh,
is pretty scary.
It's just you have not only one of the greatest concepts in all of Star Trek stories, you have some of the best character moments. We Spock for the first time is able to, for example, project the mind meld through a structure.
Yep.
Without contact with someone, and with the guard, you have things like again, some of the stuff with Scotty and was it Ambassador Fox is truly great. You get some great Scotty stuff in this one. It's funny, 2 episodes in a row where you have Scotty in command of the bridge and Kirk down dealing with some crazy computer.
Well, as a Canadian, I have some notes. So, since you decided to sort of segue us into that, I think I'm just going to interrupt you and I'm just going to go ahead and barf my notes out. So, Scotty's refusal to lower the shields is based on a true real life story from James Doohan's life. As a lieutenant in the Royal Canadian Artillery, Doohan was threatened with court-martial when he refused an order from a visiting colonel that would have killed a group of men during a training exercise. And herein, Doohan actually repeats the exact words that he said to the colonel that day, which is, "No, sir, I will not."
Wow.
Afterwards, Doohan was promoted to captain. So he was going to be court-martialed for not doing this. And then when they realized, of course, that this visiting colonel had made a mistake in this training exercise and could have killed everyone, Doohan was exonerated and promoted thereafter. So that's something that maybe some Americans need to hear from us Canadians, since Scotty belongs to us. And I also put this episode had its production date switched with Space Seed due to the writing difficulties. Yeah, so there were writing difficulties here between these two. So they had their prod dates flipped. And what else did I have here? The sonic disruptors in this episode were the inspiration for the Klingon disruptors that we'll see later on.
Yeah.
And I have Barbara Babcock is Mia 3 here. She also appears as Felania in Plato's Stepchildren, which is, of course, a banned episode. She is the voice Trelane's mother in The Squire of Gothos, or Gothos. She is also the computer and Isis the cat in Assignment Earth. She is Loskeen in the Tholian Web, and the Zetarians in The Lights of Zatar. So Barbara Babcock, she plays this icy, sort of scary thing, godlike creature, or this sort of cold person quite a few times in Star Trek. What else did I have here? Oh, my laugh out loud moment is, I assumed you needed help. I am in error.
No, I need your help.
Spock bursts into the room and he finds Kirk. Of course, he has 15 men at double gunpoint. He looks like Yosemite Sam. And the first thing out of Spock's mouth is, raises an eyebrow, turns and looks at everyone and says, "I assumed you needed help. I am in error."
No,
So those are my notes for this episode. So I hope that maybe that was something folks didn't know, or some things folks didn't know.
Absolutely. Oh no, those are just spectacular stuff. We got a couple of things from a couple of veterans here. Our good buddy Lord Thoth says, "I have been wounded in the line of duty," and let me tell you, it is not easy to do what you have to do. Put yourself in the line to fire to protect a line of fire to protect others. Making it easy is reprehensible. Yes,
Yeah.
It should be. War's horrible. We have some of our friends who have been in war, and you make it easy, and that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. If it has to be fought, it has to be fought, but it needs to be nasty because that's what it is.
Yep.
But as an artillerist, sorry, my good buddy Ace Castiron, he had a firing solution that would have landed on friendlies. I've heard this as an artillery major. Pretty cool. Let's see here.
Yeah. I definitely think he's talking about Duhan. Yeah, so yeah,
Yes.
that totally happened. And there would have been a great loss of men, and perhaps women. I don't know. It's probably just men. But yeah, I just can't believe he's just, it's quite a special thing for Canadians, because whenever Scotty starts to really shine, because yeah, he's a hero here and he means so much to us here. We tend to shout that out, right?
Yes, I second those sentiments, Katie. Thank you, everyone in the chat who served. Absolutely.
What a beautiful thing to say. Let's just
Yes.
leave that up for a few seconds.
Thank you, our wonderful friends who have served. Again, this episode, not just for that lofty but brilliant concept, also has some great. Again, this is kind of a thing with me. I love to point out certain fun character moments. Scotty stuff is just terrific on the bridge with Ambassador Fox and even with McCoy.
Yeah.
When he goes again, he knows it's going to probably cost his career. He doesn't care. He's only listening to one guy. He's not going to trust a fake message. He's going to say, I will not without orders from the real captain. What was it? Steve mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
The best diplomat I know is a fully charged phaser bank. Phase out of bank, I should say.
Yep. And Fox is hard to take seriously. Like when I was a kid, I used to think that he looked like Droopy the dog.
Yes,
because of like the extra skin underneath his eyes. I always thought he was Droopy from Looney Tunes. So he's Droopy the dog on the bridge, right?
Scotty played that. Yeah, Scotty called that Popinjay Fox. Yeah,
yeah, he calls him a Poppin.
Yeah, the Popinjay, and he's a Popinjay, and he's adult. Actually, I've seen that actor in a lot of stuff, and yes, it's he stands up to him. But then he didn't stop him from beaming down either. But I guess he's because
he's a nincompoop.
Scotty did not stop him from beaming down. He let him, but again, just a terrific episode. We get a fun Kirk fight too.
Yeah,
chatting like whipping ass on like 10 guys.
Yeah, of course. Fun. Yeah, and it's hysterical. I mean, it's a great time. There's some Kirk Fu. There is some Kirk Cowboy. So we've got the Kirk Fu and the Kirk Cowboy happening all at once. My favorite is when he goes a little Jackie Chan there, and he just throws all three of the guys up against the wall, and then four other guys fall also. So then he's like down 7 guys just by spinning around like the Tasmanian devil. It's wonderful. I love Kirk Fu, but I also love Cowboy Kirk and Jackie Chan Kirk.
My favorite is speech making Kirk, and the speech he makes in this one is, of course, terrific. Basically, my buddy Steve Mitchum loves this one. We're not going to kill today.
Yeah.
It's one of his favorite things to quote.
Project Storytime says Droopy was MGM, not Looney Tunes. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well done. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Sorry, Project Storytime. And thank you so much for correcting me. You have to understand, I have not watched television in like 30 years, literally.
Well, it's also an easy mistake to make because in Roger Rabbit they use characters from all those different kinds. Droopy was in that.
Yeah,
with a weird voice.
Thank you for correcting me, sir, or ma'am. I think you're a sir.
So Jesus is Jesus. Is this Jesus' favorite episode? I think he said it was. So anyway, again full of wonderful character moments, a wonderful story. This just again, if I don't have it in my top 10, I would have to rearrange my top 10. If it's not there, it's damn close. So what we will do now, my dear friends, is unless you have something else, Raquel, we will.
No. I think that's it. I think I got all my notes.
All right, number 1. And in that case, I will get you to give me your rating. I'll give mine, and then we'll get our rating from our illustrious chat.
This is an A for me. This is definitely an A. And if we could fully unpack it, and it wasn't happening on the internet, and we were just talking politics in an academic setting, this would be another A+ for me. It's this intellectual, very cerebral engagement that is not didactic. There is no moralizing or decision making happening for you. You are shown the information, and then you decide for yourself, and that creates real cultural transformation that changes somebody from within. It changes their soul. It changes the very way they think. And for that, we don't have that kind of writing anymore. And for that, yeah, I could edge out to an A+ in an academic setting if we were to discuss that in this way, and we were to fully take it apart. So A+ for me, folks. A+.
Big time, super capital A in big bold letters for me. I love it, love it, love it. It's a brilliant episode. It is cream of the crop in terms of ideas and characterization. Again, special bonus for the ideas in it. I dearly love this episode. Its message, all of it. Yeah, I'm a big time A, and let's see what some of our dear friends have to say. Our good buddy Jesus is the king. Cracks me up every time. A, or a 9.5. Our good buddy Scuba Pete is an A+, a admirable. Our fantastic friend, my good old buddy Ace Castine, is a 1701-A. No bloody A, B, C, or D. A big A from Ace Castiron. Our friend Lord Thoth is, let's see here. I'll put that one up there. This one is an A for the great acting and the great story alone. War should never be easy, ever. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Something we like. No bloody A, B, D, C. There you go. Absolutely, dude. Let's see here.
I love Steve Mitchum's comment. It's 17 minutes past the hour. B+ from Maddie's daddy. You are Maddie's daddy, Mr. Mitchum.
Indeed. B+ from my great friend Steve Mitchum. Our buddy Rod Thunderheart says, as I said earlier, A, it's very thinking episode.
It is.
Indeed, it is. Our pal Raymond, A+, a commentary on war and the acting. Absolutely, a wonderful rating. Toxic Man Flu, your old pal, a 9.5 out of 10. If Lazarus would have blinked in and out and fell off and stuff. The stuff 10.10. Parrot Head.
Why I love this person. This person is a funny person. Oh, Parrot Head, welcome. Hey-o. It's so good to see you.
Hey, old Parrot Head. Let's see here.
Mwah, mwah.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Do we have any other ratings, my friends? I think that's our ratings. Anyone else who has a rating, just pop it up when you can, if you have one. But yes, a great episode all around, and obviously well received one.
Mm-hmm.
Are we ready to move to the next one? Have we said enough about A Taste of Armageddon? I mean, you can't say too much about it.
You can't. These are 4 of the best episodes in Star Trek. Yeah. So it's like, we could have done a single show on each one of these episodes. That's how good they are. So, I'm ready to move on to the next one. The next one's the juicy one. The next one is it's the super juicy. It's the juiciest juicy out of all the juicy.
Yeah, my great buddy Ace buddy, this one's for you. I dedicate this next episode because I think it's his favorite. If it's not, it's one of his favorite character. I know that. So I'm having something's wrong with my computer.
Speaking of needing Jesus at Parrot Head, yeah, Toxic Man Flu's a comment at 19 minutes past the hour. It's so funny because whatever people were getting out of hand in the chats, Parrot Head was quite hysterical, because if people became too dirty-minded or they were cursing or whatever, Parrot Head would come into the room and just be like, look, y'all need Jesus. So this is why TMF is like, speaking of needing Jesus at Parrot Head, that's what Parrot Head is known for, crazy memes and also just saying, y'all need Jesus.
Absolutely. Our friend, by the way, Apollo meets Binion. Our friend Apollo Binion goes with an A. All right. Yeah, this next one is dedicated to my great friend, Ace Castine, wherever you are out there in the world, old friend. This one is for you. Let us start with Space Seed.
Wow. Hey. Sorry, I'm just taking a little drink of water here.
No problem.
Space Seed, Season 1, Episode 22. And we have some stuff happening here. Remember the last episode? We had a prod order flip. So we have stuff going on behind the scenes. writing, things to be created. There's no CGI here. We have to make things by hand. So this one has a production code of 23 and 24. And we're on page 124, 125, or tile, if you want to call it that, of the block text. And without further ado, let's do it.
Absolutely. Oh, Katie was a whole bunch of A's. Thank you, Katie. That's a high rating, my friend. Thank you, Katie.
I think she's also segueing into Khan.
That could be it too. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. Here we go, folks. The Enterprise comes upon an old sleeper ship from the Earth's late 20th century. The vessel, labeled Botany Bay, carries a crew of men and women, all in suspended animation. The group's presumed leader, a charismatic man who gives his name only as Khan, is revived, but Kirk puts off awakening the others until he can learn more about Khan and his ship. But Khan Noonien Singh, a genetically perfect specimen who managed to conquer a quarter of the planet during Earth's so-called eugenics wars, still has all of his ambition, strength, and cunning that made him a formidable tyrant centuries earlier. With the help of the ship's historian who has fallen in love with him, Khan awakens his followers and takes control of Enterprise, giving its crew an ultimatum: yield to his leadership or die. Be careful what you wish for, Spock. Long after the end of their 5-year mission, the Enterprise and its crew would again encounter Khan Noonien Singh and learn that the circumstances on Ceti Alpha 5 had sprouted a very bitter crop. Once a rational, albeit power-hungry tyrant, the Khan that Kirk encounters in a 1982 Star Trek Wrath of Khan is a madman, driven insane by the hardships that he has endured on a hellish planet to which he was consigned. The person behind the return of Khan is Harve Bennett, producer and co-writer of Star Trek II. It was Bennett whom Paramount Pictures turned to when the studio decided to make a sequel to Star Trek: The Motion Picture. He was known more for his success on network television, The Mod Squad, $6 Million Man, The Bionic Woman, I watched all those, than his motion picture acumen. But Paramount was counting on Bennett's reputation for producing well-made, action-packed adventure on time and within a set budget. When he got the assignment, Bennett admitted, "I was an ignoramus about Star Trek, so I spent 3 months watching episodes with an eye to potential source material." Bennett wanted to create a classic story, pitting the hero, Kirk, against a strong villain. The stronger the antagonist, he reasoned, the greater the achievement of the protagonist. And when he saw Space Seed, Bennett recalls, "I had one of those eureka moments. I can't think of a stronger antagonist in the history of Star Trek than Khan. All the elements that he needed were right there," he continued. "A Superman in exile, a guest actor who was still available. It all made such sense." And that's in quotes from him. On to tile 126. There are times when Star Trek's wonderful vision of the future isn't quite so forward-thinking. Race relations, an unpopular war, the social divide between hippies and the establishment, all were fair game when it came to poking holes in the status quo. But when it came to women, well, consider the How to Marry a Millionaire mindset of Mudd's women, the flirty computer created by female engineers with the unfortunate tendency to giggle in tomorrow as yesterday, or even poor Uhura, stuck opening and closing hailing frequencies for much of the series. But if certain parts of Space Seed come across as Harlequin romance, ship's historian Marla MacGyver's fascination with the living embodiment of her warrior prince fantasies, leading her to throw away her career and commit mutiny, it's not just a sign of the era's inequality of the sexes. Just about everyone on Enterprise, with the exception of Spock, is struck by Khan's tremendous charisma. As McCoy tells Kirk, he has a magnetism, almost electric. You felt it. Even Kirk, who should have known better, yields to Khan's seemingly innocent request to peruse the technical manuals for Enterprise, and the entire senior staff, although male, thoroughly confound Spock when they express admiration for Khan. And if the words on the script page establish Khan as a man of influence, the charisma of the actor who portrayed him certainly closed the deal. Ricardo Montalban is power, declared Harve Bennett, producer of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. He's one of the most underrated actors of the past 50 years. The Latino actor's turn as a magnificent tyrant, reprised 15 years later in the motion picture, secured Montalban's position, she made a mistake there, as Star Trek's most memorable villain, bar none.
Yep.
By the latter part of the first season, Dr. McCoy had become a strong presence on Star Trek. The once occasional verbal jabs between McCoy and Spock were now a regular feature, clearly fun to write and equally fun to watch. Viewers were also learning about McCoy's about him being eccentric, like the fact that he disliked having his atoms scattered back and forth in space by the transporter. But beyond the comic relief and beyond the sheer utility, as the guy who was there to patch up the crew, it was clear that McCoy could hold his own in a dramatic setting, even up against a villain as incandescent as Khan Noonien Singh. McCoy's cool under pressure persona comes to the forefront in a memorable scene from Space Seed, as Khan grabs him by the throat and threatens him with a knife. This move provokes only a wry surgical tip from McCoy, delivered with whispering intensity. It would be most effective if you would cut the carotid artery, just under the left ear. I wasn't prepared for medical speak. Okay, the comment has the desired effect. Khan respects McCoy's willingness to meet his challenge, mano a mano, so to speak. She actually put mano a mano there. And he tells the doctor that he is a brave man. While Shatner and Nimoy were, by this time, drawing an impressive amount of fan mail each week, DeForest Kelley also has a devoted following, thanks to his consistently strong performances in scenes like these. Associate producer Bob Justin recognized that the actor deserved better than the contractual featuring DeForest Kelley end credit that he was receiving. Justman therefore took it upon himself to discuss the matter with NBC, and the following season, DeForest Kelley's name was moved up front to the starring credits in the main titles. So he moved away from just being a added thing. Blue screen technology in the 1960s was an analog process that required an extraordinary amount of care and skill. Replacing the blue area in a shot with an additional image required use of an optical printer, essentially a camera that looks directly into a projector, and then photochemical processing. Effects technicians took numerous steps to sandwich together pieces of film and re-photograph them together using filters and using other forms of manipulation. Given the digital tools used today, it seems astonishing that these efforts at the time were considered bleeding-edge technology. The 11-foot-long Enterprise model shown here, along with the Botany Bay spacecraft from Space Seed, now sits in the Smithsonian Institute. And in the book, it says that you can refer to a big pull-out spread on tile 361. And that's all Block has to say about Space Seed. So now I'm going to throw it over to Clobby. I have some comments about her coverage, but I'd like to, I think everybody's heard enough from me. What do you think of what Block had to say here, Clobby? And chat, what did you think?
Fascinating, as always. I love hearing all that different stuff about it. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, one of the things that was going on in the chat while you were, because you're reading, you can't really focus on the chat, so I don't know if you saw much of it.
And I try and read as fast as I can. I'm sorry if I make mistakes sometimes.
I watch the chat. So
when there's like 5 or 6 pages of this stuff, I try and read it pretty quickly. So when I make mistakes, cool. I'm sorry. It's not intentional.
No, we got you. I'm just saying, but I watch the chat, so you don't have to. As Steve Mitchum had pointed out a little while back. I can't find it now. He basically said, "This is obviously here it is." He said, "This one is the most quotable of the episodes. One of the most quotable episodes, obviously, by looking at the chat. The chat has been quoting lines from it. They even threw in a few Wrath of Khan lines as well. So yeah, they've been quoting it all through the time you were reading that, throwing up the little quotes and stuff like that, because it is just so memorable.
It is.
It's so." And by the way, I concur with our bud Rod Thunder. We can never hear enough of you, RAQUEL.
Sorry, I get a little tongue tied after I've read 15 pages of this
No,
stuff.
it happens
Sorry,
to
guys.
anybody. Happens to anybody. Ricardo played a Sikh, Japanese, Native American, anything except Mexican. At least not that I can. Yeah, he actually did play. He did play a Mexican person once in a Western film I saw with he and Earl Hollerman and Slim Pickens, but I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
And he was a badass. And he was a good guy, believe it or not.
Well, since you brought that up, I'll just skip to my notes because that's a good segue to my notes, and then we could just keep going. So,
okay.
First, I want to say this: Gene Roddenberry revisited this script and story twice, but he was bizarrely denied writing credit for it. Kuhn and Wilbur got the writing credit for this, and I put in my notes here, this is strange, as Gene's writing would have been fundamental to the script work. He continued to rewrite the problems out of the script. There were space pirates, something that wasn't allowed on the show. He questioned why a society would endure the cost of sending criminals into space. And of course, he fixed that too. And obviously, Khan was originally a blonde-haired Nordic character. So I often talk about how Gene Roddenberry didn't get his due in writing credit. So that's something that everyone should know. I love Sikhi. And I love Gurbani, and I love Sikh people, and just the whole Sikh community here in Canada. So I wanted to speak a little bit about that. Originally they were going to name this character once they cast Ricardo. They were going to name him Sibal Khan Noonien, and then Gorvin Badhor Singh was suggested by a research team, and of course, Gene Roddenberry was looking for a friend who he served with, who he hadn't spoken to in a long time, and there was no internet. So his friend's name was Noonien Wang or Wang. And they finally settled on the character being Sikh and from the Punjab, and that's how they came up with the name Khan Noonien Singh. So Singh, it means lion. And this was mandated by Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji for all Sikhs who are warriors and protectors of the poor and the downtrodden. So that's the surname. But it's very important to know that Khan is usually Islamic or Arabic, and then Noonien would be South Asian. So when we're looking at this character, we're very much looking at a character who probably had a mom who was possibly Arab and South Asian, or maybe he had an uncle or something because it's the middle name. And then we have this father of Khan who would be a Sikhi. He did take the Singh name, even though he's not wearing 5Ks, so he's not wearing a dastar, he doesn't have a kara or anything like that. It's very important to say this because, of course, in the new Star Trek that's not really Star Trek, I was very upset because I am close with the Punjabi community here. I am close with the Sikh community here. I was very disappointed to see them cast Benedict Cumberbatch in that role when it was very clear that it was supposed to be for a Sikh. So it's very, very disappointing because this was one of the few times when I was a kid where I looked up on the screen and I saw my own neighborhood, my own friends who were Sikh, Punjabi people. And it's disappointing that they did that, and they were trying to make it seem as though that was like a progressive step forward when it was actually clawing all the progressiveness out of Star Trek.
Yep. Well, we have some interesting things going on in the chat, unless you've got some more in there for a minute.
Yeah, just go ahead. I have more to talk about, but
Okay.
because I don't really like what Block has to say about the way that Star Trek treated women or how she sort of dealt with discussing this character. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's get to the chat and talk about what they're talking about in the chat.
Well, yeah, our old buddy Canadian Spider-Man says he thought was one of the favorite villains, or maybe he wasn't a villain. I'd say definitely is a villain. He's a great character, but he's a villain.
He is.
Yeah, he's a murderer and he's a dictator, and he's he's a villain in every sense of the word, in my opinion. As our buddy Mark D with a C. And we have so many, it would just take forever if we covered them all. So I apologize to anyone if we missed one that you wanted, but I did put most of them up there, though, so they could be seen by everyone.
Yeah.
I did some work with the navigator from TWAP, The Wrath of Khan, Laura Banks. I remember her. She told me how Montalban had horrible pains in his back and couldn't walk well. Wow. Well, sorry to hear that. Yeah, I agree with Lord Thoth. He definitely was a villain. But as soon as the director yelled action, he was able to perform, and you would never know. Well, never know. He was amazing. Yeah. Well, hey, look, that's pro for you. That's a pro for you.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Captain, although your abilities intrigue me, you are quite honestly inferior. Mentally, physically. I mean, oh God, there's so many lines. We could do a show about quoting lines from that episode.
And that's really important to mention here too, though, right? Like Block's sort of, she doesn't really address this, but the thing is that he is genetically different, and that has led to this megalomania, right? It's important to note that Khan is a megalomaniac, and he is not glorified herein. He is a villain, as discussed in the briefing room. So when they sit down in the briefing room and they talk about it, like they realize that he's nuts, and this is due to this genetic alteration. He also admits that he has 5 times the strength of a regular man. So this is sort of getting into this sort of comic book type of strength. This is like a comic book hero or a comic book villain. He's been genetically altered, so it's all out there in the front. And it's important for people to realize that I don't know. I just think that the way that Block makes it seem, it's like that the women on this show don't have power. And I wish that I could sit down and write an essay every time they say that and just unpack all of the rhetoric, because I don't really feel that way. I think the thing is that if you are watching this in socio-historical context, you're watching this in the 1960s and the 1970s, and even in the 1980s. Marla MacGyver's, she is giving into a megalomaniac the way everyone is, and that's why even the men give into him, because it's not something sexual. That she's not being subjugated as a woman. It's that everyone is going to be subjugated by this megalomaniac, and he does have this incredible charisma, and that's a part of megalomania. That's a part of the terrible tyrants who destroy our world. When they come along, they're not itchy and scratchy and hard to get along with. They're charismatic, and you fall under their spell. So I'm not quite convinced by Block's coverage turning the female characters in this show into victims. I think it could safely be said that everyone here is a victim, and in socio-historical context, it's important to remember the power Uhura had on this show. And the power that even this character, McGivers, has on this show, because she's a lieutenant, although she is wearing the uniform of an ensign, and that's a little bit of a mistake. I think there's one point where she doesn't have a braid on, but it's just important to remember that women weren't even in the military. So I think it's all fine and good to go cherry picking for these things 40 years later, 50 years later, and have this moment where you're like, aha, I caught you. But it's important to put things in socio-historical context and be honest about all of the good things and the bad things that are going on in this show. And I don't find the coverage fair. I find it a little bit prejudice and a little I don't agree.
Well, absolutely, and I'm glad you pointed it out because, again, they're looking at through a certain prism that is, I mean, they're projecting, and I think projecting things into it that they shouldn't. It is, even though it is a different time. You know, all that really that happened here was Marla McGivers is a human being who fell. Yes, he fell in love with certainly the wrong guy, and but that happens to men and women all of the time. And they screw up and they make mistakes. And what does she do? She redeems her mistake at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's more than that. Why does Block focus on McGivers or McGivers? It's said, or McGivers or McGivers. It's said both.
In the episode.
It's said both ways. Kirk actually says it one way, and everybody else says it the other way.
Right.
But and it's hard to get it out then. But
she said McGivers.
Yeah. But what I find very funny though is that Block zeroes in on her reaction and her subjugation when they're literally the men are literally adoring him and talking about how they've fallen under his spell, and Spock is bewildered by this. Spock is grossed out. He's like, this guy's a megalomaniac, he's a sociopath, this guy's crazy, he's a murderer. Why are you under this spell? So I don't know, like, I just think that there are ways of spinning things to make people feel as though something is happening that it's not. If you actually feel that way, I encourage you to go back and actually watch the episode, because you'll see that there is tremendous emphasis on the fact that the men are just as enamored with the power of this Khan superhuman as McGivers or McGivers.
I think that she's just moaning about it because she's a woman who does submit to him at first. But again, people make mistakes all the time like that. And yes, she was seduced by him in that sense. But again, when it came down to it, to save the ship, she came back to her senses and she did the right thing. You can't have a story if your characters don't fall down and don't make mistakes. She was not treated any differently than an episode where Kirk screws up and almost messes everything up and then comes back at the end and finishes it and saves it. She was treated as an equal. And yes, she made a mistake.
That's exactly how I feel. Like, I sort of feel like Block is taking this in a direction it doesn't need to go, because if a bunch of men are enamored by this character, this man, and they fall under his spell to the point where not only do they honor him and think that he's sort of like magical and awesome, and they feel ashamed of it. I'm just wondering why I don't know, like he accosts McCoy and assaults him, and he accosts McGivers or McGivers and she stops him. And I just don't understand why somebody would spin this as this is just an episode about subjugating women. Like I said, I think Sandra Feliciano, if she were here tonight, she would be jumping in here to go along with what I'm saying. These are two very powerful women, Uhura and McGivers, in the military. And I don't find that she is under any more of his spell than the men. So I just don't think that this is an issue of women's liberation, like Block says in her book.
Well, I do. I believe I've seen it. I know exactly what she's coming. She's coming from her own clouded political judgment, in my opinion. She's making it political. She's politicizing it and projecting when, again, she thinks there's something anti-feminist about this message she sees in the episode, which is not the case. She's just a human being who, again, saves the day. But characters have to falter and make mistakes. She makes a mistake that a human being made. You can't write ciphers. You need to write people. Well, this story doesn't happen without McGivers.
Yeah, but Marla is accosted by Khan in no less of a violent way than McCoy. So, I don't see this being about Marla's vagina. That's all I'm saying. And I I think that it was dealt with very equally, and what they were trying to do with this episode is show that megalomaniacs are charismatic and that everyone falls
Yes.
for them. Men want to be them, and women want to
Yes.
be them, and also sometimes have sex with them, because it's about the charisma and the power. It's so and they were trying to show how that's a human flaw.
Right.
Marla, I don't think she's a bigger victim because she has a vajayjay. That's all
Exactly.
I'm saying, folks. Sorry, it's so hard for
Uh,
me to get
absolutely.
around it, but you know what I'm saying, right?
No, absolutely. And again, I believe this was someone letting their politics get into this thing without
Yeah.
getting political. Now, I just wanted to address the thing about Khan real quick. Canadian Spider-Man, he didn't think he was a villain. It's about a perspective. It's everything. Yes, he didn't think he's Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom never thinks he's a villain either because he thinks he's right. That's megalomania right there. They never think they're a villain, and they think that everything you do is justified. Because, and Spock pointed out earlier, superior ability breeds superior ambition. I'm better than you. I should be running things. And if I kill a bunch of you, it's for your own good. He's definitely a villain. In the Wrath of Khan, he hung people up by their feet and slaughtered and slit their throats. He's a monster, but he's a charismatic monster, which again is the theme of this episode.
Yes, it is. And Ash Singh has a comment. He says, that was just my personal opinion. I get he's genetically engineered, but for me, the genetics is the only thing that is mixed, not the ethnicities. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm not sure what happened, what transpired above that.
I'm not either. We were,
But I just want you to know that yes, it is. The ethnicities, the mix of ethnicities, was definitely done on purpose, and I think it's to great effect. That's not something that would be going on in 1967. In 1967, you were even pushing the envelope. Gene was warned not to even put women of color or women or persons of color on television. He was told basically in not so many words, it's unwise. And you can actually see a film of him talking about that, and I can post that later. But yeah, so having somebody named Khan Noonien and Singh all together, and him being a superior being, was really something to put on television, especially when you have a woman who's a lieutenant in the army at that time on television with him. That is mind-blowing. That was just, none of that was allowed, not only in real life, but not on television.
Well, it speaks volumes of this episode, how much you could talk about, you could do whole shows on it.
Yeah.
Of this great episode. And but yeah, absolutely, because I just love your passion over that, because it's something that you addressed a point that I think really needed to be addressed, because the way she's treated in that episode and the way she acts in that episode, people just kind of gloss over it and think she was weak. She wasn't weak, she was human, and she's weak because everyone's weak, but I mean, she had weaknesses and she overcame them.
Yep. For sure.
She's a good character. Ricardo was a great actor, and although classic, again, when there's the thing about that Katie and everyone, he sells this thing so well. He made this thing classic. I mean, he made this performance by model in both performances. This one in Wrath of Khan is just so fantastic.
And my generation was ready for this. Like, we came prepared for this because, of course, we were watching Fantasy Island.
Yeah. He's even great on that. Yours is superior. Yeah, my buddy Ace and I, for years, we've quoted this. We love both episodes. We've quoted Khan in both of them.
Do you drop your head every time you say it after superior?
We quote it so much.
Yeah.
You are in no position to demand nothing, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, so I can do it all. He loves this guy. He loves Khan. What was Esh saying here? I'm sorry, everyone. We got a little backed up there. Nice to know the history behind Khan. I always wondered why they merged an Islamic name, South Asian name, and Sikh name. Personally, they should have picked one culture for naming, not merge. I hear you.
Yeah, but I think that this was also this idea. Like, you have to realize, Ash, that at the same time, it wasn't that long ago that Nichelle Nichols and Gene Roddenberry were sleeping together, and people were not allowed to have mixed race relationships. So I think that was something that was really important to Gene. Now, Uh, he didn't wind up with Nichelle Nichols, but he definitely did not have any prejudice, and he found her beautiful, and I'm sure they made marvelous love together. So it's super important to him. But yeah, knowing and understanding what happened with that name it is super important to the latest version where they whitewashed it, they made it a white character, and then they said, look, we're going to make this really progressive Star Trek. And then they didn't make Star Trek at all. And also, it wasn't progressive. So the way that Gene tells the story, it draws us into a dialogue about what it's like to be different races, to talk about and put different races and different religions on television, and draw us into a dialogue and let us be a part of that. And also, he was being a little indulgent. He really did love his friend Noonien Wong or Wang. Different, they pronounce it different depending upon where they're from, but it's spelled W-A-N-G. But that was him being a little self-indulgent. That was him wanting to find his friend, and they didn't have an internet. So lots of stuff going on there. But I'll tell you one thing: when you put a white actor, a white British actor, probably the whitest person in Hollywood, in a position, and you take away the opportunity to talk about Khan, to talk about Noonien, and to talk about Singh in 1967, to me is morally reprehensible. I know that that's some pretty tough talk, and that sounds like hyperbole, but for me, it's not. I come from a part of Canada where there are a lot of Sikhs. I grew up knowing a lot of immigrant people who came to Canada, and for me, being able to see what I saw in my real neighborhood on TV mattered to me, because other than Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, TV was very white, and it was just a bunch of cowboys running around, or it was detective shows. So I think that when they came along and said, we're going to make Star Trek better, they actually didn't make Star Trek better. They took away our chance at an opportunity for dialogue and for really getting into heartfelt issues in a sincere and real way.
Absolutely. Hail Dr. Dr. Hercumonkey. I like that name.
Hercumonkey!
Always good to see you, buddy. Let's see where we classic Trek is full of phenomenal quotes. I can't name 5 in newer TV. Well, no, that's a good point. That this is so, and this, as I think Steve Mitchell pointed out earlier, this is as one of the great quotable episodes, as is Wrath of Khan. They're both, Khan brings quotes, I guess. I mean, all of Trek's quotable. There's so many tracks all the way through it, but this one, man, this does have a lot of it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's try, because we'll be forever, we say, with the chats, but
Yeah.
so many good things going on. Basically, I want to sum up on this episode is saying that there are just so many wonderful moments that it would take forever to go through them all. We've been on this episode a long time now with very good reason. There's so many great scenes, so many great character things. Just again, lessons, much as with the previous 2 episodes, lessons about tampering with genetics and things like that, and superior power breeding superior ambition, and just one of the most charismatic performances in all of Star Trek by any guest ever. And people say Star Trek villain, and I started thinking about that one time. And I go, you know what? There aren't many Star Trek villains in terms of a recurring villain. I mean, you could technically say Harry Mudbrook used 2 of them, and not so much like a monstrous villain or anything, but he was the baddie, I guess. But Star Trek is not that. It's not a comic book, so it doesn't lend itself like to have the Joker, or Doctor Doom or something like that. It's just but Khan is that. He's only in 2 of them, of course, but he is the quintessential villain in all of Trek, and there are other bad people, of course. Mm-hmm. But he is the best of all of them, all through Trek, as far as the villains are concerned. And again, it's not a thing that loans itself to like super villains per se, but he's as close as it gets. And this episode is full of so many wonderful moments. The scene at the table, the dinner scene. This right here, I'll tell you, I really love this scene right here between Kirk and Khan.
Oh, actually, a
conversation.
lot of people think that this is a mistake, but it actually wasn't a mistake. Through my research, I've researched this quite a lot, and because there were a lot of costumes being made for this episode, and of course, to wonderful effect. There are some glorious, glorious costumes on in this episode, but apparently that's why the line "I was an engineer of sorts" was added, and it's supposed to be foreshadowing as he quote unquote tries on the crew, because right after this, of course, is when he pulls the crew together and basically says, "Look, you beat him or join him, like join me or die." So yeah, the red shirt, not a mistake, and not just him throwing something on while they were making other costumes, at least as far as my research goes.
Gotcha.
I should also mention here too in my notes that yes, unfortunately, MacGyver's is wearing an ensign's uniform, and the reason why I say that is because she's lacking a braid. She wears braidless sleeves, and also Kirk tells Khan while he's reviving him that it's been 2 centuries. He actually should have said 3.
Yes.
And that's all I have for my notes on that one. And yes, and I am pretty upset that Khan is not a white guy named Benedict Cumberbatch. Khan is a wonderful story about a person who wanted to talk about mixed race and persons of color being on TV, and he is a glorious villain, a wonderful person, a wonderful character. It reminds me of Captain Nemo almost, and I feel like I'm back on the Nautilus. So wonderful to see Sikhs on television at this time when there were no Sikhs on television at this time, and this isn't the first Sikh either. There are 3 in Star Trek. So bravo to Gene.
Bravo, indeed. There's some great exchanges between Kirk and Khan the first time they meet, and the second time at the dinner table. As I said, some just wonderful stuff. And this scene right here, I really liked it when he's just basically just shows you it's so Kirk when he tells him basically, "Yes, it appears we will do quite well in your century, Captain." And that was it. Just, do you have any more questions, Captain? I just love the chat in terms of no. They've all been answered. Boom. And just the look on Khan's face is like, yeah, he's a little smarter than I thought. I mean, he told him everything he needed to know right there.
Yeah.
And it just makes you wonder, if he hadn't been able to take over the ship and do what he did, what was Kirk going to do with him? We'll never know because of the way things went.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing to contemplate. Well, I think anyway. I love Space Seed.
Eric says, Raquel, were you researching Ricardo's chest? I would just like to say wholeheartedly yes. I'm not going to lie. Wow. When he took that shirt off, wow.
Filth indeed, my friend. Filth indeed. Meaning, of course.
Don't mention that filth. Love you, Ace. Thank you for saying that.
No, definitely it's not fake. That's right.
Oh no, it's not fake.
Yeah, I don't know what that old fake thing. I guess because he thought it was Mr. Rourke and he couldn't be. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, they're totally wrong. There, that is not only is that a hysterical argument, but if you are or rumor actually, and there's a zero truth to it. Did you know that the jacket that he wears? I forget how you say it in Punjabi. Esh could probably tell us how to say it in Punjabi, but it was actually modeled after what you would see a groom wear at a Punjabi wedding. So that's what he would wear for his first dance. And one of the reasons why Thais, the famous costume designer who worked on Star Trek TOS, one of the reasons why he chose that was not just because Khan was Punjabi Sikh, but it was also, he changed it a little bit because he wanted to show off how awesome Ricardo's chest was, because he's built like a brick poop house. Like, he's gorgeous. He's like muscular. I like muscles.
Nah, women don't like muscles. Women don't like muscles. How toxic of you?
Yes. And Ricardo, this young, he's hot. I'm sorry, but he is just hot. way
held
too
it.
old for me when I was a kid. That's why I'm saying sorry, because I don't have a thing for old dudes, but he's hot.
On behalf of us old dudes everywhere, sorry guys, we're out. Well, again, yeah, they keep mentioning. You can't. I guess it's understandable to keep mentioning Into Dumbness, but it's filth. So that's not Star Trek. So don't worry about it. Into Dumbness is filth, like all the Jar Jar Abrams trash and all the bad reboot garbage and all that stuff. So no, they don't stop spreading rumors. She bitch said women like muscles. That's gobbledygook.
I'm a toxic female. I'm sorry. I do apologize. I'm sorry, but not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. So, Space Seed, the legendary Space Seed, my friends. I will get Raquel's rating, and then I will give you mine. And everyone, please, what is your rating, my dear friends at the chat, for Space Seed? Go
A
for number one.
plus.
Indeed.
A plus 100% out of 100%. And this professor is going to give an extra 10%. So 110%. So that if there is another essay that is brought in front of me and it doesn't do well, I'm going to apply that extra 10% to the one that's not so good. A plus, 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 110 out of 100.
A plus from me also. This is top notch, top 10, fantastic Star Trek, and I dearly love it. Our good buddy Mark Seal, hail Mark Seal, gives it an A plus as well. Yes, indeed. Oh, what else we got here? Let's see here. Let me find some. Let's find some other ratings, shall we? Come on, my friends. Let's get some ratings going.
Bring them in, folks. Bring them in.
Come across with the ratings. We've got an A minus for that tough critic, Lord Thoth. A minus it is, my friends.
Lord Thoth.
A minus.
Through Lord Thoth and got an A. You know it's got to be good if Lord Thoth gave it an A.
There we go. He's a tough crowd.
He's a toughie.
And Dave Mitchum has got it an A plus, plus. Our wonderful friend Katie Carr's an A plus. And we let's see. Edit K. A plus, best of the best. Proved McCoy was one cool cucumber. Cut the carotid artery. Just close it here. Carotid artery. Montalban presence is magnetic.
You mean artery? It's so hard, hey? It's like
artery.
When you talk for 2 hours, especially if you're reading a lot of material, you feel like you have a mouthful of marbles. It's very hard to talk after 2 hours.
Well, I'm dyslexic anyway, so. He owns the scenes, and you could actually believe he was ruler of one quarter of the world. You certainly can. It's genius.
What a smart and wonderful thing to say. Feeling like the
He
character is real.
Oh, he's fantastic. Rod Thunderheart is A plus, a bunch of pluses. Let's see here. Our buddy Esh Singh is like Man of Steel. No, Man of Steel would be an F minus, but this is
Man of Steel. Boo!
Ash is my buddy, but I'm gonna come after you when we come. I hope you're streaming with us again this Thursday, Ash, so I can come after you. I'm just kidding, buddy. He's a great friend. We love you, man. Now it is an A star, so it's an A, right? Is that an Ash? Would that be an A star, my friend? If you could clarify that, please.
Asterisk.
Oh, let's see.
Say that 3 times without swearing.
And Man of Steel sucks. Kirk, Ash knows I'm messing with him. He's a cool dude. Kirkman. Well, and men were, and more adventurous from back then. Bolder, more colorful, yes. Now, Steve, Ace gives it a 1701 without the A, but I guess that's an A because I know, is that an A, brother? Or is that just like maybe this is his favorite episode?
He's saying it needs to be retrofitted, maybe.
I hope not.
Is this commentary on Gene?
I don't. No. I don't know if you maybe forgot to put the A on the A. If you could clarify that, brother. They just, people forget to put stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Let's see if we got any more ratings. Yes. Jesus is A plus 9.9. Actually, that's his favorite episode. Okay, that's right. Well,
that's
a good
really
choice.
Cool.
A good choice, my friend. A plus for Mark D with a C. It would be interesting, Captain, to return to that world in 100 years You only needed 15 to learn
Yeah.
what crop was from.
Such
Did
a
you find it
good
today?
line.
Yes, sir. You only needed 15 though, didn't he?
Mhm.
Toxic, TM, toxic affected by Lazarus Benslew. B, not even Lazarus could have saved the plot holes in this story. I don't know of any plot holes, but feel free.
Well, yeah, you can go ahead and mention some
Oh,
plot holes if you'd like.
sure.
This is
At liberties.
Nathan Butler and this is DC Fontana. No, who wrote this? Just let me go check and see who wrote this.
Let's see.
Who
here.
wrote this one? Who wrote this one?
Canadian Spider-Man
no.
is an A+.
Yeah, it's Kuhn and Wilbur. Yeah, it's Kuhn and Wilbur. I'm
Oh,
getting
right.
mixed up
Yep.
here now. We're
Oh,
2
I got
hours.
you.
Really, I have mentioned several. Did he? Where? Let's go find them. Sorry, when I'm looking down, I don't know where they are, honey.
It'd be tough to find them without. I mean, backtracking doesn't only go so far. This chat,
Yeah.
unless you can find them in the YouTube chat. I can't find them at the StreamYard chat. Doesn't go back that far. Usually, it would take.
Yeah, it cuts us off. We don't get to see that.
Look, hey, but that's okay. We trust you. Talk to Manslow. It's your opinion. That's fine.
You know what, TMF, you have great opinions, so I would definitely respect anything that you would have to say on this episode.
Let's see here. Yep. Ace, the best, only comparable to Mirror, which is my favorite. Sinage Forever, Balance of Terror. Well, yep. Look, it's a top 5 for a lot of people. I'm going to make my new list soon, and
Ace has
it's going to be the
great
top
taste.
10.
Yeah, Ace has great taste in Star Trek. He has really good taste in Star Trek.
Give it a mic.
Don't you dare,
what that means.
Ace. I mean it. We'll space you. You're going out the airlock. You're going out the airlock.
I don't know what a Mikey means. Could be,
better not be a Mikey Spock.
Oh, I think he means no. Oh, it's not a Mikey Spock. It's me. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I get you.
I think I got it down, bro. It took me a second. So
it took me a minute too.
Here I'm Clobby. I forget my own real name.
Yeah. I call him Mike sometimes, just mostly Clobby because it's cute to call a man as tall and big as Mike.
It's my own fault.
Yeah.
I made it up. Ugh, I'm an idiot. At a con, a woman, 1/3 my age proposed. I said, you'd have to ask my wife. She turned to my wife and said, I'm okay with it if you are. Oh, okay. I think he's on that muscle thing again, dude. You know, I trust you. Yeah, it's greatness, man. It is greatness, sir. Esh. Yeah, a star. Oh, it was a star. Okay. So it was an A star. I got you, brother. Yeah. Thank you, Esh, for your A star rating there. Katie, did you rate it? Let's see. When I say the worst episode of TOS is gold compared to new TV, I think we're killing. Look, I understand your point. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, hey, absolutely. Especially when you compare it to STD, but just about anything, really. Yeah, you're right. No bloody A, B, C, or D. Yep. First and best. That's just probably his number 1 there. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here where we're at, so we catch up when we get on to the next episode. Just making sure we didn't have any other ratings. Dr. Hercules is also an A++++, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. So basically, TMF is defending Gene Roddenberry here, and as usual, of course, I trust TMF. So yeah, I totally agree. I definitely think that you can see cleanup on aisle 1, cleanup on aisle 2, cleanup on aisle 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. I don't think that it's good that they didn't give him, writing credit, even though he came in and cleaned it up. There were a lot of things that Gene didn't like about this episode, either, TMF. So, they found ways of sort of gluing those rough edges down so that they looked good. But I just think that, the Writers Guild crapped the bed on this one. They should have Gene just should have completely redid it. I don't understand why that didn't happen. So TMF, I'm blowing you kisses because, as usual, I love you. Great comments. And I totally agree. Being able to see that stuff and knowing why Gene wouldn't have liked it. Yes, I agree. Why send them up? Why send this criminal up in stasis? These are all questions Gene had. So I agree with you.
Yeah, but didn't wait? But you're saying somebody sent him up there, or didn't he take it and steal the ship and do it himself?
Well, no, it's the way that it's the way that it was originally presented
In the
uh,
episode, they said that, yeah,
to
but they weren't
Gene.
sure. Yeah. Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
so it's like the way that the
I understand.
story. So this started with that Wilbur guy, and then
Yeah,
Kuhn
Carrie
came in
Wilson.
and Kuhn started trying to fix it. And then it was brought in front of Gene, and Gene was like, look, there are all these problems with it. Like, we can't go in a space pirate direction because I don't like space pirates. Why would the society
Right.
endure the cost of sending them up into space? You're going to have to fix that. And
Right.
and then, of course, Khan was supposed to be a blonde-haired Nordic. So Gene came in, and Gene Roddenberry, I should say Roddenberry because we have two Genes here, one Kuhn, one Roddenberry. But Roddenberry came in and said, like, this sucks. And he rewrote it twice. And yet the Writers Guild still told him that he did not get credit for it. And I don't think that he fully fixed it to his liking. And I think just that TMF noticed the places where it got glued down, where it wasn't so tight. So I agree with TMF.
No, I got you. Ariane, it's not. I could have just missed it. Let's see. I miss these things sometimes, dude. Okay, Ariane. Sorry, man.
Raymond, I love it.
These things fly on me sometimes. So this chat in this StreamYard is kind of wonky.
Yeah.
So, so I apologize to you there. Yeah. I got an encoded message from Ace Cast Iron reminding me what a Mikey is, but he said he'll change it to a club. A Mikey work. Now that I know who you're referring to, an old buddy of mine who, I guess he used to call a Mikey. I forgot all about that, dude. Jesus, it's only 20-something years ago, man. Almost. I forgot all about that. And hail to Shahid, in case you ever hear this.
Hey, Dini Myers. He just walked in.
Dini Myers, welcome. I'm a little bit back in the chat, so I didn't see it. Let's see here. But no, Toxic, I appreciate that, man. I just miss some of the things. They fly by me sometimes, so I'm sorry I missed your points there. And then Katie, there you go. Thank you, Katie. You gave it an A. That's right. That's right. I'm sorry I have an old man's memory. Well, a garbage memory. Let's see here. I just sent you an STTMG version of the TOS opening title. It's pretty cool. Where'd you send that to me, bud? On Twitter or on
Probably Twitter.
Okay. Well, we got another episode to get to, my friends, and we're going to jump on it. So, thank you. We're moving on from Space Seed, but we've had a wonderful time with Space Seed. You could do a whole show on Space Seed.
Yeah, and I can't believe actually how little time we spent on it. We really burned through that. I'm so glad that there are so many experts here so that we could talk about all the juicier stuff in this episode instead of just fawning all over it. And we did it in like record time. I love our chat, you guys. We did a great job. Love you, love you.
Well, we've spent more time on this one than just about any other episode, though, because it's Space Seed. So.
Yes.
Yeah. And
literally and figuratively, it's Space Seed.
Indeed, it is. And let's see here. Our next episode, ladies and gentlemen, is, of course, the incomparable, well, the great, anyway. Well, I love it anyway. This Side of Paradise.
Swoon.
Oh my God. We're in trouble.
Sorry. Sorry.
Damn it, number one. Number one, you're a Starfleet officer. You're a conductor's officer. Go for it.
Oh boy. It's just the spores. I'll be back to normal as soon as the spores wear off. This Side of Paradise, Season 1. Episode 24. We're looking at a prod code of 25. Please open up your block text, Star Trek 365, to tile 129, 130. Let's give her, as we say in Canada. The Enterprise is sent to Omicron Ceti 3 to report on the state of a group of colonists who have been exposed to the region's deadly birth hole radiation. Sometimes they pronounce the D, sometimes they don't. So, whatever. To the surprise of Kirk and the rest of the landing party, the colonists are all alive and in perfect health. Among them is Lila Kolomi, or Kalomi, a former acquaintance of Spock who harbors feelings for the Vulcan. Lila demonstrates the secret of the group's survival by exposing Spock to spores of an alien plant species. The plants have established a passive, symbiotic relationship with the colonists. Their spores immunize the humans against the Berthold radiation and, at the same time, provide the host with perfect health and a feeling of serene tranquility. As the spores work on Spock, he yields to his long-suppressed emotional side and falls in love with Lila, or Layla. Before long, the entire crew has been exposed to those spores and opted to abandon the ship in exchange for a pastoral life on the planet, leaving a frustrated Kirk wondering how he can get the mutineers to return to the Enterprise. Many of the female characters who graced the Star Trek screen were given hairstyles plied into bizarre architectural configurations and garments that left little to the viewer's imagination. This side of paradise, Lila Kalomi, as portrayed by Jill Ireland, was noteworthy exception to this rule. Her beauty spoke in a different feminine ideal, the nature girl, refreshingly free of artifice, garbed in practical yet chic overalls. Lila was smart, gentle, and self-sufficient, but apparently not opposed to communal living, given the right group of people. Even the camera adored her. Director of photography Jerry Finnerman's painterly hand cast her a radiant glow that seemed to highlight each individual strand of her golden hair. The stoic Spock somehow managed to resist Lila prior to his exposure to the spores, but he made up for lost time after he inhaled. According to D.C. Fontana, who received the story that had been credited to Nathan Butler, a pseudonym used by the science fiction author Jerry Soule, Lila was initially conceived as a woman of color. She was supposed to be Hawaiian, and she was going to have a relationship with Sulu, D.C. Fontana says. Scripts, however, typically go through many iterations, and ultimately it was Spock, not Sulu, who wound up being paired with Lila. Then they cast Jill Ireland, an amazingly beautiful woman, to play Lila, says Fontana, recalling the delicate-featured, blue-eyed blonde actress. I thought, well, some Hawaiians may look like her, Fontana jokes. If there's one thing James T. Kirk can't stomach, it's paradise. His passion for the Enterprise is all-consuming. No woman can hope to stand between Kirk and his ship. So what chance does an odd-looking botanical specimen have? The spore shooter does its best, showering the captain with a full charge of happy dust, but only pacifies the captain for a short while. All it takes is a glimpse at one of his medals of bravery to create cracks in the superficiality of the peace facade. By the time he gets to the transporter room with his suitcase, the captain doesn't look like a man eager to spend the rest of his life tilling soil, let alone abandon the love of his life. Pounding his fist against the transporter controls, Kirk forces out 3 emphatic words. I can't leave. After that, the score is Kirk 1, spores nada. The first draft of the script reports writer D.C. Fontana indicated that all the spore plants were located in a cave on the planet. One cave, laughingly, she says. Well, obviously, the characters would quickly figure out, do not go in the cave! And that was one of the first things I changed when Gene Roddenberry gave the script for me to rewrite. I put those spores all over the place. Finding extraterrestrial spores on one planet usually is a bad thing. They have traveled to your world to expand their grazing territory, and you're the blue plate special. Or they may have come with some peculiar master plan that involves replacing you and all of your neighbors with the populace of look-alike emotionless drones. Think Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But the non-native spores of Omicron Ceti 3 don't seem to have a malicious agenda. They actually make living on an irradiated planet possible. And they provide a nice bonus package, feelings of peace, tranquility, and yes, love. The emotionalist Mr. Spock initially experiences some painful side effects as the spores infiltrate him, presumably because he's engaged in a ferocious internal battle, all that force-fed sweetness and light. Once he yields, however, he's blissful as the rest of the colonists and seems to genuinely regret being freed from their influence. The spores, once banished, leave all the colonists with perfect health, though they also seem to leave Spock with a broader sense of compassion. He is remarkably kind to Lila when he reveals that he can no longer love her. We sense that the emotion he experienced was genuine, but turning his back on emotion is his duty, as he explains, describing it as self-made purgatory. And there's a beautiful picture of the actress crying her eyes out. Viewers who have studied all 79 episodes of Star Trek know there are only 2 scenes that depict the empty Enterprise bridge bereft of personnel. The one that most fans think of is This Side of Paradise. Just a few seconds of footage that convey the sense of isolation Captain Kirk feels as he steps out of the turbolift and comprehends at last the entire crew has deserted him. The other scene, briefer and less iconic, is The Mark of Gideon. It was the Paradise shot that the producers of Star Trek The Next Generation turned to when they depicted to honor the original series by recreating Kirk's bridge for the TNG episode called Relics. The filmmakers quickly learned what a difficult task they had taken on. The original bridge was long gone, and there wasn't even an accurate scaled drawing of the set to use as reference. Compounding the problem was the fact that building an entirely new bridge for a single sequence would not be cost effective. Enter serendipity. The producers found the Paradise footage and used it as a part of their blue screen process. That allowed the designers to build a smaller piece of set that came within budget, a pie-shaped wedge containing a captain's chair and helm navigation control, borrowed from a model maker and longtime Star Trek fan named Steve Horch. And that is all Block has to say about this episode, This Side of Paradise. And now I'm going to throw it over to Clobby. Clobby and the chat. What do you think of this? What did you think of Block's coverage? And what do you think of this episode?
One of my favorites. I absolutely love this one. Again, quite possibly a top 10 or so many wonderful character moments. Jill Ireland. Oh my goodness. I guess I can't say much to you about your swooning because all I got to say is Charles Bronson was a lucky bloke. That's a yes, the wife of Charles Bronson. Everyone, if you did not know, great actor, one of my favorite old time actors. Yeah, it's just so many wonderful moments. I don't know where to begin. I just all the stuff with Spock, of course, as you can see, it's funny. And then again, as Star Trek is so good at doing, you have the darker episodes, you have the serious episodes, and you could be serious and fun at the same time on Star Trek. It's funny seeing Spock act that way. Mm-hmm. But I love the effect it has on him initially when he fights it, when Layla says to him, when he actually, if this bit right here, where it hurts him, because this is not what Spock wants to be, and he's fighting it, and it just he lets the spores take over, and they finally take over. It wasn't easy for Spock. This is a great character development moment. Of course, we learned about I don't know what Spock was doing on Earth 5 years previous, but he was. We don't know, but he was there, and he met Layla Kalomi then, and apparently it did not go well for her. As Katie, by the way, Katie pointed out, it's the perfect episode for Valentine's Day. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Well, it's have you ever seen the footage of Leonard Nimoy talking about Star Trek: The Motion Picture?
And what I've seen some stuff, but I don't know if I've seen what you're talking
about. He complained that one of the things he didn't like about Star Trek: The Motion Picture was that it lacked this humor, and the humor in this episode is like the center of his heart. Like, as a person, he loves this kind of thing. He loves betraying the confines of this Vulcan mind, because of course he would go days staying in character, and it's one of the things that led to his drinking problem, because he actually couldn't come out of character until Sunday. So he has gone 6 full days of filming. So it's wonderful to me that you would throw this up on the screen and that you would talk about it, because he if he were alive and here today, he would totally agree with you, Clobby.
Yeah, it's a great moment for Spock, him fighting the spores like that. But, there is the human half to consider.
Yeah.
And it turns out it brought feelings out that he would never have brought out. So he did love her. And it's still Ireland, so Vulcan or not, you're going to love her. So he was able to let it all hang out for the first time. I mean, for a second, he got a little angry in Naked Time. But I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, the first time we got to see Spock kind of go nuts a little bit.
Yeah.
Because all these shows always have an episode here and there where the crew is not themselves, that trope, where they're all acting out of character and stuff. So it had to be probably fun for Nimoy, I would imagine.
Well, and remember, this was supposed to be shot in a field, and it got shot in a park instead. That's not in my notes. This is just me remembering stuff, so you'll have to look it up for the details. But I think it was a Los Angeles park, and so he ad-libbed that whole thing of hanging from the tree. So Leonard Nimoy loves banter. He loves very cerebral banter. He loves that kind of intellectual poking that makes everyone laugh, and it's at no one's expense. It's at everyone's delight. So he loves this kind of thing. Like Leonard Nimoy, the actor, personally, he's expressed very heartfelt, in a very heartfelt way, how much he loves this kind of intelligent humor. So yeah. He really enjoyed himself. What's really weird about this, once again, this isn't in my notes, but it's something that you can go and look up for yourself. After Leonard Nimoy passed away, William Shatner allegedly gave an interview with a British tabloid, and he basically said that Leonard Nimoy and his first wife were kind of swingers. But they weren't like full swingers, because they didn't engage in intercourse. William Shatner said some weird stuff like there was just like a lot of hugging, whatever the heck that means. But it's kind of funny, because I'm not sure if I believe that, because well, first of all, why would he say that he was a swinger but he wasn't a swinger? And second of all, Leonard Nimoy at Comic-Cons used to talk about this scene, how uncomfortable he felt because Jill Ireland's husband
was Charles Bronson,
and he was on set. And
oh my God, was he really on set? Oh, Lord.
Yeah, and he was watching them while they were making out. And so I don't know if I believe William Shatner. Plus, it's alleged through a tabloid magazine. So how truthful could it be? But just so you guys know that that's not in my notes, so you have to go and look it up. But that is something that I know about this episode. Is this is it true or is it not true? So we've got William Shatner allegedly telling a raggish type of magazine from the UK that Nimoy was a non-swinging swinger with his first wife. And then, of course, we have Nimoy, who is known as the consummate gentleman. He's very gentlemanly with women. He's not a creepy, swingery type of guy. And he felt totally intimidated by Jill Ireland's husband on set and did not want to make out with her. And he talked about that openly at cons. So I tend to believe Nimoy, who is beloved by everyone, and maybe not so much William Shatner, who gets himself into a lot of trouble with everyone.
Well, absolutely. Well, that's a good point, Mark D. See, another episode dealing with humanity needing freedom and creativity, maybe at the time reflecting the popularity of cults. Yeah, I mean, that's a good possibility. Absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody was going away to live on a kibbutz, or...
And also a big episode about how mankind needs challenges to, just doesn't want everything handed to them. And a lot, but again, but it's filled with great scenes. Like I just love it when Shatner's just terrific when when Spock, mouths off to him on the communicator. He's like, that didn't sound at all like Spock. He said, no, it did. I thought you said to McCoy. I said, I thought you said you might like him if he mellowed a little. I didn't say that. You said that. Not exactly. And then he goes after Spock, and when that is a perfectly directed and of course the music by Fred Steiner is so terrific. The scene when Kirk comes upon Spock and sees him in the distance, hanging from that tree. They have to reusing the shore leaf music. And he's laughing and hanging for a tree. That's Kirk's reaction.
And it's so cool that he ad-libbed that, because that was not in the script at all. Like I said, this was shot, and it's not in my notes. It's just from my brain, so you'll have to go look it up. But this was supposed to be shot in an open park, and then they went to this specific park, and I think the park is in LA, and I'm a Canadian, so I don't know what that park is called. So that tree was not supposed to be there. That was supposed to happen in an open clearing.
Nice. It was great, and again, it worked perfectly. And Mr. Spock, he was like, "Oh, Mr. Spock!" And he yells at him. It was just so, oh God, it makes me laugh every time I see it. It's just like, there'll be no evacuation, Jim. Well, perhaps we should go back and get you straightened out. It's like,
how about when he goes into his name calling session to get Spock to come out of it? Like, I have,
it's terrific.
I probably have 3 books called Shakespearean Insults, and somebody needs to write a book just about that scene with all the different ridiculous names that he calls him to try and get him to snap out of it. It's hysterical. It reminds me of my Shakespeare cup that was given to me by a colleague of mine. And it's just filled with Shakespearean insults, or one of my Shakespearean insult books, because just the insults are hysterical.
It's terrific. It's terrific. But the thing this is one of those. This is it a Spock episode or a Kirk episode? I would argue it's a both episode, like many of them. And I just love, when Kirk gets shot by the Spores finally, when he's on the bridge, and you notice that shot. If you look at it, there's no. The flower thingy's not there, and then the next shot it happens, just crawled up there, I guess, because there's a wide shot, a pull away shot where you can't see it, so that was probably a blunder. But anyway, when Kirk goes to his quarters, and yes, he's having some second thoughts, but he's been, for lack of a better term, assimilated or spored or whatever. What's funny, that's one episode, and then a few episodes later, that's happening again. Return of the Archons, in this one, where people have been taken over. And they're influenced in their mind. And when he's in the transporter room, and again, only Kirk's will. We've talked about this almost every week. Yeah. Kirk's love for his ship, and he's so devoted to the Enterprise that he burns those things out of himself.
Yes.
Like you said, no, he's about to beat him down. That's it. The Enterprise, and of course, let's hope it doesn't fall on them in a few months later and when the orbit decays and destroy the planet. But, but anyway, they weren't thinking about that, were they? Mm-hmm. But so he burns it out of himself, and then leads to that scene that you were talking about. All right, you traitorous, mutinous, disloyal half-breed. We'll see about you, leaving my ship.
Yeah.
And all those insults.
Your father was a computer. Your mother was an encyclopedia. My mother was a teacher.
And you've got the gall to make love to that girl.
Yeah.
She knows she's getting Spock a carcass full of memory banks.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's hilarious. But let's talk about my other crush. Okay, we need to address my other crush, and that is D. Forrest Kelly. Right. I have my wonderful D sitting underneath a tree, what is he having, folks? The mint julep.
That's a drink, Jim.
It's just so wonderful to see him doing that, and his Georgia accent's so thick.
Y'all ever had Jim boy? Y'all ever had a real cold Georgia style mint julep? Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, he's great. Oh, we forgot one insult though. You belong to the circus, Spock. Right a starship, right next to the dog face boy.
The dog face boy line's so funny.
Then he gets pissed off and starts trying to kick his ass.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're so angry about, by the way. It isn't every first officer gets his belt as captain.
Yeah.
Several times.
Yeah.
But yes, on the McCoy, my God, that scene with he and Sandoval, when he just he's I don't know why that when your mind is taken over by spores, all of a sudden you revert to a country accent. I'm just an old country doctor stuff, but I love it.
Yeah, well, I think that was his original accent. I think he just suppresses
Yeah.
it because he's very educated, which was very common back then. You would want to try and all around the world, people try and sound British because, of course, there are studies that show that people think that you're more educated or more cosmopolitan if you have a British accent. So I can definitely see how he was doing some accent reduction there. The chat is blowing up with hysterical stuff to say. And yeah,
yes.
Katie, I hate to say it, folks, but the romance in this episode didn't make my top 10 in Trek. And Katie Carr, I have to tell you, when I was a kid, I absolutely hated Jill Ireland's guts. I was so jealous of her because she was with my Spock. I just thought it was terrible. I believe I may have jumped up on top of the couch and said, I can love him the way he is. He doesn't need spores for me. I fully hated Jill Ireland because I thought it was totally unfair that she got to be with Spock and I wasn't.
Yes.
I was pissed.
Oh, I hear you. Well, I'm not going to understand what Katie's saying there. If you were rating romances, it didn't last very long. And so, yeah, I can see what you're saying there, Katie. But yeah, so McCoy has a great scene. What's that one?
Katie Carr, 35 minutes past the hour. I love you, Katie.
Justice for Raquel. We'll get that. Poor
I
Jill,
love you.
rest her soul. I do believe she's gone now, Jill, but rest her soul. We'll get her though. You got the last laugh.
Yeah, she's beautiful. But Leonard Nimoy did put his arm around me, and
yes.
So I do.
Yes, that's fair enough.
I do feel, at a VIP, so it made me feel very special.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, but again, great stuff. I do love the scene between McCoy and Sandoval, which is, we don't need you here. Of course, not as a doctor. He goes, no. Would you like to see how fast I can put you in a hospital? And basically, after he says, I decide what goes on, I said, wait a minute, better make me a mechanic. They can treat little tin gods like you.
Yeah.
And it was pretty fun. Whole making the using the subsonic transmitter to induce a form of itching that would get on everyone's nerves and make the colonists fight and burn up the wimpy spores.
Well, it's either that or send a whole bunch of kids from a daycare. I mean, how do you get people universally annoyed? It's pretty funny.
All you got to do is piss people off.
Well, I feel really bad too because I think it's not in my notes because I didn't really make notes for this episode because it's one of my favorites. So I just speak extemporaneously. But didn't Frank Overton die right after this? I think he was sick for a long time. And he died like 1 or 2 months after this episode. It's just really sad because, of course, he's wonderful. So, shout out to Frank Overton and, right. I'm agnostic, so I'm just going to say send in my love to the great perhaps.
Indeed. But yes, it was not too long after this. It's absolutely. But yeah, again, it's a wonderful episode. You have, of course, the end scene when Spock's back to himself and he has to tell Layla about it. We find out that he has another name that no one can pronounce ever.
Yeah, you can't pronounce it. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? That's the flip is they sometimes they say that, it's something that can't be pronounced and then it's just I have one name. So
but then it was touched upon again in Jaron and the Babel when what was it when Amanda tells Kirk, I'm afraid you couldn't pronounce the Vulcan name, Captain.
Yeah, exactly.
Said, you? And she says, well, after a fashion and many years of practice. So yeah, there's some Vulcan name that we'll never know.
Yep.
So, but anyway, yeah, you got, again, just a terrific, wonderful, entertaining episode that is just so much fun. It's brilliant. And this is a top-notcher. And if you have nothing more, we'll go ahead and rate this one. What do you think?
I don't really have notes other than all that stuff that I told you that you would have to look up to verify to get the little details on. It's good, juicy stuff. Go look it up. It's lots of fun to read. And I hope you enjoyed our coverage of this one. It's one of my favorites. I love Leonard Nimoy. I would respectfully disagree with Clobby on this one. I think this is an all Leonard Nimoy all day long episode. And just swoon-tastic for me. I've had a crush on this man since I was like really small. So what is there to say? I was just green with envy. From Jill Ireland, and not just because her last name is Ireland, which is associated with green, or the fact that Spock's green blooded, but I was just green with envy. I'm going to go ahead and give this an A. I think this is one of the times where we get to see different types of humor and different styles of humor, and it's very cerebral. And I love to see the characters stepping outside of their characters to become the opposite of their characters, or to do something silly and wonderful to elicit real belly laughs. This isn't laugh track, ha 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 ha. This is like you burst out laughing when you notice that McCoy is speaking in a thick accent and getting drunk underneath the tree, and meanwhile Spock's hanging from a branch and you know, is essentially going to have sex with an incredibly beautiful woman. So yeah, this is an A+ for me. I love this episode. And Jill Ireland, shame on you for taking my man from me.
Damn you, Jill. Damn you. You had Nimoy, you had Bronson. What more do you want from life?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, there you go. I will, of course. I think I got to guess. This is an A for me.
Okay.
I love it, and I love. We don't have that much of a disagreement. I just think I love the Kirk stuff even better. But then I don't have a crush on Spock like you. So
Yeah.
that could be why. Let's see. We got some ratings here.
Oh, it's so funny. Look at what the comments that are coming after the ratings, though. They're so funny.
Okay. Well, we'll do them in order of rating and comment. How about that? Let's see.
We have the smartest, funniest, nerdiest, geekiest Trekkies around. I love this crew. This community just makes me laugh.
Mark C is a B-/C+. Okay. Gotcha, buddy. I have little to say about a captain. Yep, there's Spot quoting the last line of the episode.
Yes.
That's my life. I was happy. Now, Katie has gone from a B+ to an A.
Oh, to an A.
Upgrades. All right, you can revise your review. We all do that sometimes. Lord Thoth says, I think this one is a B. There were a few plot and scientific issues I had with it. That's fair. That's fair.
That's fair, Lord Thoth.
Jesus says a B, 7.3, and Cupid wouldn't enjoy this episode. Gotcha, the great Ace.
Listen to this one.
I thought this shit was weird. Spock romance is weird. C+. Dear, I never. Spock romance is weird. Well, that kind of was the point of the episode. It would be weird for Spock, but he had to be out of character to do it. See, so
I just imagine Ace saying that in real life, though. It's just so funny. I thought this shit was weird.
I could hear
romance is weird.
He's one of my greatest friends for like the past 20-something years. I can hear his voice saying it now.
Oh,
I hear you, brother.
It's funny. It's seriously funny. I'm crying here. I'm just crying.
Oh, Mark D with the C. B3 out of 4 spores. TMF. A+ because Spock gets laid. Well, it's possible he does, yeah. But a bit B- from Steve Mitchum.
Maddie's daddy.
Gotcha. B- from my boy Steve Mitchum. Give it a B, maybe B+ because Jill Ireland looked nice.
Yeah,
he did. She did. TMF. You toxic son, Bartrell.
Yeah, that's why Eric and I make a good team. Eric is not afraid to say who's good looking, and I'm not afraid to say who's good looking. And Eric and I just don't even care. We just unabashedly say who we're crushing on, and we don't even care what people think.
Well, yeah, no, the way it should be. Katie said I upgraded because it's past midnight and I'm full of love. Oh yes, it's Valentine's Day, Katie. We get it. We love you, and you're full of love. That's the way to be. You're a lovely person. Toxic little Spock's brain man. Yes, that names. Wait a minute, now he's toxic stool Spock's brain man flu. Wow, dude, our buddy Fried Thunderheart is a B+. Thank you, sir.
I love it.
Yeah, I got you. You and I like it more than most people. B/B+ for our buddy Dr. Herky Monkey. And but Spock regained it after his fall to Pan. That's right.
Ooh.
The refusion.
The refusion.
An offer they couldn't refuse.
Oh,
Parmock. The Parmock was high. Yeah, looking for Parmock in all the wrong places. That was a great episode.
Oh, that was do you remember that movie? Oh boy, so many cowboy boots.
Yep. No, but also remember the episode looking for Parmock in all the wrong places of Deep Space Nine?
Yeah.
That was a great one. Katie posted about that one yesterday. I think that was a hilarious episode.
But you did see the cowboy movie in the drive-in that it's named after, right?
No, I did not. I know about the song "Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places." I didn't know there was a movie.
That was it was in a John Travolta movie.
Well, that explains why I didn't see it.
You need to go to the drive-in more often. There was a triple feature, man. You get there early. You get to see 3 movies.
Wasn't that Urban Cowboy? I don't know about the other.
Oh yeah, it was Urban Cowboy. That's what it was called.
Yeah, that's right. But
that was the theme song for that movie, was it not? I'm going to throw that to the chat. Chat, confirm.
They can tell us. But I love the drive-throughs. I mean, look, do you realize some of these people are not old enough to know what a drive-in is?
I know. What's happened? We're 1,000 years old.
So B+ for Scuba Pete.
Oh, Scuba Pete.
There we go. Oh, okay. Yeah, that is. I've watched that one recently myself, Katie. It is a good episode.
Love.
Worf and Dax. I don't know. The Worf and Dax thing, Katie, I think maybe you say you like that one. It's not as bad as Worf and Troy, but I guess it just kind of annoyed me because I'm sort of like Raquel, the way she is about any woman with or man for that matter, I guess, with Leonard Nimoy bothers her. Anybody else with Terry Farrell bothers me. God damn it. Pardon my language, Katie. I apologize. I've just got angry because Worf was with her and I was not.
I love it. I love this whole conversation.
In fact, his TMF's name's hilarious. Oh, geez. Every time I see that, throws me off there. Well, that's hilarious. Jesus.
He'll move it around, and he loves puns, so he'll come up with some really clever stuff.
Urban Cowboy.
Yes, it was Urban Cowboy.
Yeah, but again, I don't have any problem with the Chakotay 7 thing. It's just, but again, even Katie said earlier she was jelly of 7 because she had old Chakotay. So yeah, we reach.
That was the twin drive-in, Rod Thunderheart, and I'll tell you something. They had good ice cream there. Yep, 188th Street, White Mud Drive. That was the twin drive-in. Really good ice cream, and I love their hot dogs.
Ash, you got to, if they ever open up a drive-in, yeah, man. I if I could, I'd open one up. They just still have some, but not
maybe because of the vid, they'll come back. I mean,
maybe because of the coof, yeah, they'll come back.
I enjoyed being in my own car, watching a movie, bringing my own food. Like a lot of people, we would go to like A&W or Dairy Queen first, and we would like take the food to the drive-in. Do you know what I mean? And then you're just eating in your car, watching, and you could get like a triple feature.
Yeah, it was the best. Oh my God, drive-ins. I used to go stay at a friend of mine's house back in the 70s, and he lived behind a drive-thru. A big old field was separated. You couldn't hear anything. We go in his backyard. We could watch Star Wars from like 2 miles away.
Yeah, and all you have to do is just turn on your radio if you know the radio signal.
That was before they had radio signals.
Mark C. at 47 minutes past the hour, he says, I used to feel the same way about Marina Sirtis. Then I realized then I read her social media and got over it.
Yeah, I agree.
I just want to say, as a person from the left, I don't approve of her stuff. Not that she needs my approval, but I just think that it's a little wild, like what's going on over there. I think that there are a lot of people speaking in a really extreme and scary ways on social media, and they really need to tone it down. There's no need to get out of hand like that. I hate to sound like Mr. Spock, but some people they're getting out of hand, and they're saying some stuff that's really now it's not even past partisanship. It's just act like a nice person, like just be a normal person, and be careful of what you say in public too. Like you should have you should have some type of decorum or comportment that aligns with your persona as an actor, and I think you should respect yourself and your fans enough to not become embroiled in extremely divisive issues and then become abusive towards people. I
Right.
don't fault you that there, Mark. I agree.
Yeah,
It's been a little
absolutely.
bit too much, and no political or no partisanship can excuse the kind of behavior I've been seeing on social media. People really need to roll it back like 7,000 degrees.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. It's just an absolute damn shame. Well, Katie says the hate for Chakotay and Seven fuels Trek Twitter most of the time. It baffles me. Yeah, why do they get worked up over it so much? I don't know.
Because a lot of people wanted to have Chakotay with the captain. And
Oh, you really?
yeah, a lot of people were really looking forward to that. Everybody really
Oh,
liked that idea because you
oh my
had a woman
God.
in a power position with a younger man. And yeah, there were a lot of people that were shipping that idea and really wanted it to happen. And when it didn't materialize, materialize, um, people got pissed. They're not happy about it.
Oh well, Katie is wanted to ask you though. She says since you're here, why while you're still here, who are your favorite Star Trek pairings? Do you have favorite Star Trek pairings? I don't think I have
I
any.
don't think I do. But I'm not really in I've
Not a
never really,
skipper.
yeah, yeah, I've never really thought about that. When I
Good night,
think of
Lord.
Star Trek, I think of, oh, Lord Thoth, are you leaving?
Lord Thoth, thank you, buddy. Aegon lives and long live the Legion, my friend. Thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Oh, you're going? Good night. Have a good rest of your weekend and a happy Valentine's Day, Lord Thoth. And thank you
Yeah,
so
buddy.
much for staying. I know you stayed way longer than you needed to or could. So I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for sharing your time and your wonderful mind with us. And I hope I'll see you next week. Take care.
Later, bud. Good to see you, man. But yeah, so like you were saying,
Yeah, that's just
just
not like when I was growing up, like in the 70s. That's most of my childhood occurred in the 1970s. So like this was just like a cerebral show about science fiction. So I never really like looked to it for romance or stuff like that. I've never been into romance novels or things like that. Even when I like period pieces, they tend to be the colder ones, like John Malkovich in Dangerous Liaisons. I love The Libertine. I love Amadeus. So even the ones that are from period pieces, they're not really romance. I've never been really into romance novels or romance stories. I've never really been attracted to that. I really love very old gothic horror. So the idea of being afraid but not being not no gore, no violence. I love the original Bram Stoker's Dracula, for instance, and I really love science fiction. I think I read The Hobbit in grade 3, maybe 4. No, I think it was in grade 3. So I was a nerd right off the hop, and I've always really been drawn towards science fiction, little bit of period stuff, but it's usually the macabre. It's the gothic horror, and just science. That's what appeals to me. I know it's really weird because a lot of women really love Jane Austen and they love romance and stuff like that. I'm just a little weird. I've always been more prone towards logic and science, and I study rhetoric and stuff like that. So just never really felt the whole thing with the romance thing. But thanks for the question.
no, it's a big deal now. I never even heard of this big deal a couple of years ago, but I don't know if that's what is exactly what Katie means by that. But all right, look, I understand. I mean, again, it's the kind of thing, a lot of a lot of ladies are into in their fiction, and it's perfectly fine. I mean, if that's what you're into, if that's an aspect of Star Trek that appeals to Katie, it's something I never give that much thought thought to either.
Mhm.
Although if one's kind of an awkward one, like sort of the Worf and Troy one was, then it kind of sticks out.
Mhm.
But if I think about it, I go, sure, Kirk Edith Keeler's fantastic, but it's a one-off episode,
Yep.
Things like that. As was it Picard? Crusher, that could have been something, but I'm glad it didn't go that far, to be perfectly honest. And it works in some episodes. The Worf Dax one, yeah, a lot of people like it. I mean, I guess it's not, but you know what? It didn't really bog down episodes or ruin them, anything like that. So it's
No.
fine. Yeah,
No,
so
and
that's the
I
only thing that concerned me.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it, but that's a very interesting question to think about, the different romances and the different relationships that you enjoyed to watch people couple off to go off and be couples, and yeah, it's very interesting, and I think it's cool that you raised that because I think a lot of people are totally into that. As far as me using the word shipping, it's my understanding that shipping is like when fans decide that two characters should be together, so they create transmedia narratives around those desires in the hopes that the authors will change the story. Am I incorrect?
I think it's that. I'm thinking also just kind of some of them just do it for fan fiction, but some of them, like some of those fan bases, have been pretty rabid and have tried to influence shows like Supernatural and some other
Yeah,
ones.
yeah,
Although there wasn't a lot of romance on that one, but I mean, Doctor Who had people doing that. Of course, you got your Raylos, people like that. But
yeah,
so it's out there. But yeah, I mean, and some of it's just fan fiction,
yeah.
which is fine. Katie says thank you, Raquel. She says for being, I think she means herself, being a conservative fan in Star Trek. I've been told I'm not welcome. So have I many times. Even though I try my best to uphold the principles of Trek Etic. Absolutely. But I've had so many times people tell me, well, if you're not far left, not just left, if you're not left at all, but are far left, you don't even belong in Star Trek. You can't even understand it. And I just think those are people that are attaching too much political, without getting too far down the rabbit hole of politics, attaching too much of a political agenda to it, when I've always said Star Trek never is so much political as philosophical. And it poses philosophical arguments. It may take a side once in a while in the real Trek I'm talking. For the most part, it intelligently presents philosophical arguments and lets people make up their own mind. But these people have decided, they decide one thing, and they decide if you lean a certain way politically, you can't be a Star Trek fan. But they call everyone else gatekeepers. A lot of these same people, interestingly enough, like crap like STD, and that that's what they're being defensive about STD and P hard when they do this. Before, no one really did it that much. Before that stuff, they didn't really care what your politics were that much. In Star Trek, it's because of how ridiculously political those shows are, is when that kind of started to happen.
I think that the development of self-publishing has led people to do and say things that they wouldn't otherwise do, and I think it has created an arena for nefarious organizations to sort of change the narrative online, and social media has become the kitchen table of North America and the world in discussing the things that we care about, and unfortunately, I think a great deal of hyperbole has occurred, and a lot of hurt feelings, and I think it's very important to point out, and now I'm speaking as a scholar, that it's very important to never never, and I don't like even using the word never, consider a partisanship your identity. I think it's very important to remember that partisanship is about governance, and governance is a collection of ideas for how to run your society for a very short period of time. It's only a handful of years, and so in this last little epoch we have going here, we've been brewing a very incendiary cocktail, and it's been very hurtful to a lot of people. I think it's really important to remember that about a third of the United States is left, and about a third of the United States is center, and about a third of the United States is right, and that middle swings to half conservative a lot of the time. And so, being conservative is about going with the tried and true. That's what it means if you look it up in the dictionary. It means that you want to go with the ideas that you know are tested, and you want to creep into things and not bound into things too quickly because you don't want to make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you are a hateful or a bad person. And of course, being liberal means that you're very progressive and you're not afraid of making mistakes. You want to bound into the great blue yonder and try and make things happen. And even if you don't get it right, you'll fix it later. And so it's just very important for people to just tone down the rhetoric and stop demonizing one another. We're
Yes.
people, and our government is elected by us to do that little mandate, that little finite mandate, that little collection of ideas for that handful of years. And it's their job to do that. And that does not mean that we should hate or demonize people because they are conservative or because they are liberal.
Right.
And I'm quite
Absolutely.
tired of it. I'm quite tired of
It's
it.
sad.
I love my conservative friends, and it's not an identity. Being conservative is not an
No,
identity, and being liberal is not an identity. It's
no.
actually very scary when you start talking about that, because that means that you become the party, and the party becomes you, and the
Right.
party starts to tell you what you think and what you believe. And so suddenly you're not auditioning ideas and deciding whether or not you agree with them. You just have a list of ideas that are going to be pounded into you, and you're going to make sure that you pound them into others as well. And so it's quite terrifying, no matter where you are on the political spectrum. And people need to step away and walk back from this behavior. I love my conservative friends. You will probably never meet anybody more liberal than I am, no more left than I am. In tests that I have taken, I'm so far left that I'm afraid I might have left the chart. Um, but that doesn't mean that I will close of the tried and true, the tested, the sticking with what we know, to making sure that we don't make mistakes, and to some conservative ideas. And I think it's ludicrous to polarize people to periphery, the absolute periphery of politics and partisanship, to the point where we are turning friends and neighbors against one another. This is merely an implement. A party is
Yeah.
an implement. It's a collection of ideas that we use to try and shape our society and get things done. It's not a reason to hate anybody. I want you to keep on talking to your friends and neighbors, and I don't want you to care who they're voting for. I want you to care about who they are inside. Open up a dialogue. Talk about the things you believe and the things they believe, and try and find some common ground. Listen to one another, and don't worry about any of this mess you're seeing on social media. As a scholar, I can tell you, we're going to look back on this epoch, and we're going to be incredibly ashamed with our behavior. So I encourage you to be one of the voices of compassion, intelligence, reservation, rationale, and just bring your heart and your rational mind to it, and don't get swept up in it. And that's all I want to say on that. I care about my conservative friends here. Okay.
Well, we, those of us who I guess have to label ourselves that way, whether we like it or not. I mean, yeah, appreciate you for that, and we just all need to get along. And there was a time when people, whatever the political ideology was, got along with each other, saw each other as human beings. Certainly argued and squabbled and stuff, and yet coexisted and loved each other. And that's the way it should be. You know, left, right, middle, wherever you are. There was a time when people would hear each other out. They would coexist. And if we both loved Star Trek or both loved comics or whatever, whatever was Doctor Who or whatever, Star Wars, whatever it is, we could, we could talk about that. We could enjoy each other's company in that, and we didn't have to always agree on everything. And I still think most of us see it that way. That's based on everything you just said, and those of us who, I guess, those of us who lean right don't care where someone else's politics are. It's just, let's get along. Let's talk about the things we mutually love. We don't have, you can certainly talk politics and do a show for that if you want, but I always want this place to be a place where, geeks of a feather can talk about stuff like Star Trek and comics and different things that. There are many other channels in the fandom industry. I listen to some of them as well that will just talk about politics. And I understand, look, that cultural stuff does need to be addressed. Absolutely.
It does.
It's just, this is not really a place for it here.
No. But it's important to address Mark, and I don't want Mark to feel ostracized or to feel like he doesn't have a voice here, or somehow his comments mean nothing here, because what Clobby is saying right now is absolutely the truth. Here we come on neutral ground with a mutual affection and mutual respect, and I want everyone to know that. And you're not in trouble for bringing that up, Mark. We'd love you. You're not in trouble.
Oh, no. We appreciate it. It's just that, again, that's just the thing. We just love each other and get along, and we don't have to agree. By the way, there wasn't, again, I just long for the time where you could, if you were having a political discussion, it could be heated. You might even lose your temper. But 5 minutes later, you come, you shake hands. Or in the old days, like you shake hands and you go to drink out of the water hose after you beat the crap out of each other in the backyard a little bit, and then you're still buddies.
Because there's so much more to a person than who they vote for. And it has been very sad to me to watch it shape people's entire identities until they become the party. And every single person in this room and in this community is a dynamic individual that believes a myriad of things. And they all deserve to be heard. They deserve love. They deserve respect. They deserve a voice. And that's where I'm coming from.
Well, absolutely. And that said, the one thing we should find a way to unite on is we're all human beings in the end, and we should unite against things that are bad for all of us, like cancel culture, things like that. They're bad. It might be coming from one side at one moment, but the tide can always turn to another side. So that's why, let's say something bad's coming from one side of the political spectrum that you may not happen to be on. You got to know that there could be another time down the road when it could be coming completely from the other side. So whether it's coming from your side or the other side, hate to use that word side, but if it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. People are people. People do, no matter, it's someone who you agree with 90 to 100% of the time politically could do something horrible. And someone you agree with maybe 10% of the time could be on your side and stand up for your rights. Remember that old saying, it's cornball and I love it. I may not agree with what you have to say, but I would defend to the death your right to say it. When we get that back, if we can get that back and make that the norm instead of an exception, and we stand up for each other, whether we agree with each other or not, it's really easy to defend someone's rights or speech when they say something you agree with. You're supposed to be able to defend. You should defend the offensive stuff too. Something you're totally offended by, you should still defend people for. Yeah. And that's what we need to get back to. Again, I'm sorry, I did it too. So we both get on that. And I think we just all support each other and be friends. Hey, who's friends with or has every friend that they agree with on everything? Yep. I don't know about you, and I know you don't either. So,
but it's quite funny because there is, if you really truly are friends with somebody, and you're an intelligent person and a caring person, and you can listen as well as speak, you can do both of those things. It will amaze you at how little partisanship and politics are brought up when you have so many other things to share. And that's the takeaway message here. And we don't normally talk about politics here. I don't like to talk about politics when I'm on the stream. And so I want to thank Clobby for that we don't really get into that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there's a lot of really nasty stuff happening in the world today where people are deciding that they're going to unperson other people. I want you to know, on behalf of Clobby and myself, no one will be unpersoned here. We're all here to celebrate Star Trek. We love all you guys, and you have a spectrum, a continuum of opinions, and who you vote for is a very small part of that. And we love you guys, so don't worry. worry. All are welcome here.
Absolutely. And again, that's that. What yeah, we swerved off into that a little bit because it was kind of because without going too deep into it, what happened to Gina this week and everything like that, and things like that do need to be addressed. We're not going to solve those here, but I think it's good that we had a bit of a clarification session saying, look, we don't care, what your beliefs are. If you love Trek and you want to come hang with us, or if you hate Trek, you want to come hang with us, you can do that too. I mean, you can hang with us either way. If you're a cool person and we don't have to agree on everything, yep. Just listen, have a good fun. I would like this to be sort of a geek Shangri-La where everyone can hang out. And unless, of course, you like Man of Steel, Jar Jar. I'm just kidding. Again, kidding. You can like anything you want. Again, all in good fun. And there's the thing. Let's always make sure it is in good fun.
Yes.
And that's kind of what we're here for. So, and we love Star Trek. And again, Star Trek, all that stuff you were just talking about comes from Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry didn't hate people that disagree with him on things. Gene Roddenberry, he had his political and socio-political leanings and stuff, and they changed and fluctuated over the course of time, of course. But Gene Roddenberry, he preached, again, all throughout Star Trek, getting along with each other and not judging people by their beliefs and everything. So we learned from him, didn't we?
I love Mark D with a C. He says, that's why this chat is so great, with everyone being accepting. But can't we switch the subject to something safe like sex or religion? It's so funny because, Mark, I always say that. People are always asking me as a scholar, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on this? And I always tell them, in polite conversation, and especially in polite public conversation, I never discuss sex, religion, or politics. So I absolutely love that you said that, because that's one of my adages. I make sure that I put that out on the table so that we don't wind up somewhere in a rut.
I guess I'm just in a good mood because I got to spend 4 hours earlier today on the live stream trashing the movie I hate. It's my second most hated movie ever in the history of the world, Man of Steel, which was my most hated movie until 2017. Now, The Last Jedi is that. So I guess I'm just in a good mood because I got to beat up on that movie. Yes, I'm so negative. I used to get crap from people for calling the show Clobbering Time because they thought that was negative. You clobbered it.
What? Man. No. Oh, did you see what Katie Carr put at 9 minutes after the hour? I love you both. True Trek camaraderie. We love you too, Katie. And you are very, very important to the Star Trek community. There are very, very few young people who are actually watching Star Trek. Star Trek has become a bit of a phenomenon as a transmedia narrative. So it's actually just being used as a vanity metric or a talking point on social media. And you are here listening to a bunch of old fogies talk about a show from 50 years ago. And you've watched it and you love it, and you've learned about the true Trek canon. And we just think you're brilliant, and it's just wonderful that you've picked up the baton and you're going to finish the marathon out, because, after us, there won't be anyone to carry the torch that is Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. So, you're a part of that true Trek camaraderie of which you speak. So we love you too, Katie, very much, sweetheart.
We love you, Katie. Absolutely. And again, I guess we should start saying some of our goodbyes to our friends, unless we have any more else to add. We've kept them here a good while.
Yes,
and what a great crowd we have here. We love you so much. And that's Man of Steel, Ash. Don't worry, dude. Ash is such a good dude.
You're going to get in trouble here when you keep talking about the man of poop.
You will bow to my will, sir. Kneel before Zod. I'm sorry. Ace will like that one. Let's see what we're about to say some goodbyes, but we'll see what Katie has to say here. I've been called an old soul. Yes, I can see that. An old soul indeed. Love old movies. Saw a Betty Davis film earlier. Nice. And well, look, I've met many times where I met very young, much younger people who like the older stuff. My buddy Ash, he's around Katie's age, my new friend Ash here, and he's been watching some cool stuff that we recommended to him there. And he has an open mind, and he is again we got that younger generation from Katie's generation, from Ash's generation that gives me faith, because they're really just great young people. you know,
And they have
and
good
they're a lot of
taste
fun.
in TV.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
This,
and
we're at,
Maddie's daddy, which is Steve Mitchum, he's
yes,
saying, he brought up Happy Valentine's Day, Katie. Can I just say, before we get too far into this and it's
sure, sure,
over,
sure.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Each and every one of you are my Valentine. I love you all. Thank you for making this community great.
I hate Valentine's Day, but if you must enjoy it, just eat something chocolate, everyone. I hate it because I'm all alone. I'm just kidding. Most of the yeah. Well, let's see here. Eric, you hate that because you're a toxic male. Hating Man of Steel is toxic to hate horrible movies. At least it's better. At least it's better than it's not better than Superman Returns. Would I disagree with you, sir? I don't like Superman Returns. It's crap, but Man of
What if
Steel
I
is
think
the
there's
worst.
only one Superman?
In terms of movies, it would be. I know it'd be
Yeah,
Christopher Reeve. Yeah, yeah, I agree with.
yeah. Like it's just, there's nobody after Chris.
No, absolutely not. Again, I love George Reeves before him, who played him on the old TV show. And but Superman's a comic book character to me anyway. But Christopher Reeve embodies him he's just the
Yeah.
best. And even if he did make 3 not so good movies, he made the first one that was the
Well,
greatest.
that's okay. I enjoyed them
Yeah.
and in socio-historical context for their time, in the time in which they were made and the time in which they were played. I thoroughly enjoyed them. I had a wonderful time, and he's fabulous.
Ash, no, there's not. Henry Cavill never even played Superman. He played Super Mopey Man. I like it. By the way, Ash, I like Cavill. Might surprise you to know that in a good film, I would be no problem with him. But he played in a Man of Filth and a Man of that maggot-infested movie and Bull versus Shit. He played in that and Justice League and the Snyder Butt. So. But I'm with you, Ash, that in spirit he could play a good Superman. But he never played Superman. But I hope he gets the chance someday. But with Jar Jar Abrams in charge of Warner, I doubt it. And you don't want that anyway. But anyway, Ash knows he's a good buddy. But Christopher Reeve rocks, by the way.
Yes, Christopher Reeve is amazing and is the only Superman.
He's the man. Absolutely. Now, everyone, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Had a wonderful time, including I want to thank our fantastic friends, both Ash Singh and Katie Carr, the younger generation that we
Yes.
depend on. Ash, I hope you will hang out with me Thursday, buddy, with the international gang.
Yes.
Well, yeah, we will talk about this because Ninja Knight agrees with you. But look, you guys have the right to be wrong on my show anytime, my friend. That's the slogan I have: the right to be wrong.
And let's thank the mods.
I want to thank the mods. I have so many of them here, so I don't even know. I can't remember who I gave mods to, all of them, but I want to thank the great Chris Pezia. Yeah. All right, man.
And
Persia,
Eric K.
And I won't forget Eric. You know that. I just want to say he put. I'll just say this to wind Clobby up. You can't wind me up. I mean, Cavill was great as Superman, even though in Man of Steel he never was. In that scene under the terraforming machine, when under pressure, he looked like Chris. I mean, look, I like Cavill. It's just he never played Superman because that movie's not Superman. So, Anyway, wrenches, of course. Of course, also the great Eric K.
Yeah.
The great Steve Mitchum was here tonight. He is also a wrench.
Yeah.
I've been made fun of for making too many people wrenches, by the way. My great friend Ace Cast Iron. Yeah, Spock love stories are better than Man of Poo Poo.
Thanks, Ace. I'll remember that.
Unwindable. Scuba Pete, thank you for being here, my friend. Yes. Jesus is King 68. Indeed. Thank you, my
it was
good
so
buddy.
Good to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. Let's see here. We have a lot of great friends. I'm going to go through the great Lord Thoth was here earlier. He had to run out, but thank you, sir, for being here. Dr. Hercumonkey. Thank you.
You guys are so great.
Absolutely. My old buddy, Project Storytime, my new buddy, I should say, who I got to hang out with today, was here earlier. Thank you.
Was.
Let's see here. Mark C. Hey, brother. All pulling for you, man. Good. We love you, bro, and hope you're doing all right tonight, buddy. Let's talk soon. Mark,
and he apologized for bringing up politics, but
don't worry about it, man.
Does not matter. We love you anyway.
It
We
had to
love
be
you anyway.
addressed. It was good that it got addressed, man. We'll live through it, brother. Don't you worry about that. Just get better, bub. And because we got all kind of geeking to do when you can.
Yeah.
Got some comic stuff I want to talk to you about and stuff. So, Mark D with a C. Mark D with a C. We love you, brother. Thank you so much. Toxic. Hey, Toxic. Did he go back to his old name yet? Oh, he did. Hey, Toxic Man Flu. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Oh yeah, and Steve Mitchum's saying Raymond was here. He was. The fabulous
Right.
Mr. Feliciano was here.
I wrote him down this time.
Good.
Let's see here. Yes, Raymond Feliciano, my friend who had to go. I know he had to go. I'm sure that the great Doomcock is still singing away tonight.
I should say goodnight to the Council of Steves.
Yes.
Same time. Yeah. These are the Steves I know. These are the Steves I know. And if you're Canadian, you know what that reference is.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. I don't, though, because I'm not Canadian. But I trust you. Raw Thunderheart.
Yes, Rob Thunderheart. It was so good to see you here. And Canadian Spider-Man. Did we say hello to him?
He's on my list here. He
great.
Is Canadian Spider-Man, continually doing what a Canadian spider can. My friend, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. I probably forgot somebody. I don't know. My list says no. But Ace, again, buddy, be careful out there, bro. I'm so glad you joined us. Anyway, announcements. Again, Monday night. WandaVision episode 6. I believe it's 5 or 6. I think it's 6. With Loki and Purple Valkyrie the wonderful Purple Valkyrie will be joining me. Also, I think Fat Steven Seagal will join us. That and my Monday Night Comics show. And we'll be talking about WandaVision and who knows what else about comics. Wednesday night. Oh, by the way, Monday night, that'll be 8 p.m. Central. 8 p.m. Central. Wednesday night will be Open Geekness. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll find something to do there. And then, of course, Thursday afternoon, 1 p.m. Central, our new show that I'm having so much fun with, International Geek Roundtable.
Mm-hmm.
I decided, Raquel, that I wanted to be able to talk to some of our wonderful friends across the pond, like Ash and my buddy.
That's great.
And my buddy. Yeah, we got a lot of good buddies across there. And, we're so late, on nights like tonight, but and it's so late for them. And Ash is, it's in the morning for that young gentleman.
Mr. Singh is going to hit his pillow and he'll be out. Tired. The second his head hits the pillow, he'll be out.
Absolutely. So, Thursdays is for those guys. My buddy's Ninja Knight, and we have a great all-star geek panel from all over the world. My lovely friend Stephanie Janicek joins us sometimes as well. We have my buddy Jed, and again Ninja Knight, and Retro Dicky, our good friend we got like 3 or 4 friends across the pond. So Alpha Omega was here.
Yeah.
Alpha
beginning
Omega.
and the end. Hello, beginning and the end. He was here at the beginning. He was here at the end.
I'm glad you said something. And if I forgot anyone else, only excuse I got, my friends, I'm old. But anyone who was lurking, also, thank you so much. We will be here next week with 4 more episodes. We're getting towards the end of season 1 of Star Trek, the only original. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, everyone. I guess we don't do the outro. We just say goodbye, make it easy for you. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night. Idic. Live long and